7 in a road trip and feeling like, all right, Hunter Renfroe said last night after the game that, okay, yeah, that was a struggle, that sucked, but you know what? Now we're coming back home. Let's see who we are. They've been successful at home. They've been much better at Kaufman than they have been on the road. All right, returning home, let's see who we are. And they go out and they win a game, and that Vinny Pasquantino swing felt like there was a lot of exhaling maybe in the stadium last night and a little bit of a monkey off the back after 25 straight innings without scoring a run. Salvi then puts an exclamation point on that right after it, and the Royals go on to win 4-1. Cole Reagans was really, really good, and the bullpen goes out there and pitches 3 scoreless innings. So we'll get into Royals and some takeaways from that as well. 913-912-4810 is the text line. 913-912-4810, the text line. Sterling, what's up, brother?
Yeah, I'm sitting in your chair. It feels much classier. I now see why you sit over here. It's very classy over here.
Is that right? I didn't realize. I just thought it was like 2 feet away from where you are. I didn't realize there was a step up in level of class by going. Do you now drink your water and your coffee with like a pinky up? Sitting in that seat?
If there was video, maybe Dylan. Yeah, I actually had the pinky out. I'm wearing a colored shirt today. Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I'm classy. I took your chair. This is the classy chair. I almost wore an ascot today. That's how classy it is.
I don't know the last time I've worn a collared shirt in that chair. I'm not sure. It's typically the uniform of radio, shorts and a T-shirt, depending on what the weather is. In the wintertime, jeans and a T-shirt and a quarter zip. That's my uniform. That's what I go and take the field in every day, Sterling. All right, I get ready. I wake up in the morning, and immediately it's all about my team taking the field at 10 a.m., and I've got to get that uniform on, and when I'm putting that uniform on, my game face is coming on. It's the same thing. I'm now locked in. I'm focused. Okay, uniform on, focus starts, and that happens when these shorts and a T-shirt go on.
Yeah, I just decided apparently today I was going to dress like Colonel Sanders. I don't know why. I have a mustache soul patch combo because I'm going to Branson for a bachelor party this weekend, and I go, well, what facial hair does Branson deserve? And it deserved a mustache soul patch combo. I feel like I'm looking like Colonel Sanders right now. Dylan, what do you think? Is this with the white shirt,
you got all white on?
Yeah, it's very Colonel Sanders-esque.
You just need glasses. That's the only thing I'm missing. Those are sunglasses.
Well, kind of.
Colonel Sanders doesn't walk around in sunglasses inside.
No, he doesn't.
No. I mean, he doesn't walk around at all right now, but I mean, if he were to still be walking said earth, he would not be wearing sunglasses inside. I don't think.
I'm just saying also, Colonel Sanders was a liar. It's not Kentucky Fried Chicken. He was born in southern Indiana. Okay, that gets my goat every single time. He was born in my mom's hometown, a town of like 2,000 people. Could have put Henryville on the map. He didn't. Chose another state.
Well, he lived in Kentucky, and his restaurant, which is about 5 minutes away from my in-laws, where we're staying right now, was started here. I mean, it was called Claudia Sanders.
Oh, so we have beef. We have beef, baby.
Or chicken, or it's pork mainly. Poultry, I should say, is mainly what it is. But it's a southern home style, right, restaurant, and the family sharing with the sides and all of that stuff. That's the restaurant, but it was known for the fried chicken, and he decided he wanted to franchise it. And you know what? It was in a state called Kentucky at the time. So he went ahead and called it that.
I'm just telling you, he was born in my mom's hometown of 1,878 people. It's less than 2,000 folk. He could have put Henryville on the map, but this man decided, no, I'm choosing another state, okay? It gets me, okay? It could have been Henryville fried chicken, and now Henryville, all of a sudden, going to be awesome. Didn't do it. Could have done it.
Oh, no. Doesn't have the same cachet. Henryville fried chicken doesn't sound nearly as cool. That's just me. Just my opinion.
I'm just going to say, you're not changing my mind, Jason. I'm angry about this. I will die on this hill. On my tombstone, put Colonel Sanders, liar.
Come visit, and I'll take you out to the original restaurant. We'll go to little Claudia Sanders, have the original The original recipe, the original recipe with the Claudia Sanders chicken. 913-912-4810. Mark off the Colonel Sanders conversation from the format. Okay, now we move right on to item B that we wanted to get to here on the format. How was I'm always curious about when there's a number of things going on in a particular night and there's multiple different games and interest level. How did you take in last night's sporting events with the College World Series, with Game 7, with the Royals, playing the Marlins? How did you go about being able to watch, or even maybe you didn't, I don't know, taking in those events?
I did not watch the College Baseball World Series. I'm an honest man, didn't do it. Could have lied, said I did, didn't. I watched.
I really loved it. It was great. It was when they had the hits and the runs and the wins. That was so cool. And the 9 innings, that was pretty neat. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, so I watched the Royals game because I was very upset for the first, 3.5 innings, and I was just angry, and I needed to watch that. And then all of a sudden the 4th inning happened, and I was like, okay, yay, this is fun again. And I watched James MacArthur actually close the game out, which was very exciting, very easy. Didn't put a whole bunch of bumps in my chest. Didn't feel like I was going to have a cardiac arrest situation happening, so that was good. So I watched the end of the Royals game, and then I watched the third period of the Stanley Cup, right? Watched the third period of the Stanley Cup. That was kind of how the timing coincided at my household. Obviously, that was a phenomenal game. Florida Panthers, USA, who was right. I actually wore red and white pants just for this today.
Good for you.
Yeah, no, because I'm Team
I wore
USA.
a Houston Oilers shirt just for S's and G's,
There you go. I was the only one who was, who apparently loves America on this show.
Mick chose the Florida Panthers, but Dylan and I wanted to see history. I mean, it's coming back from 3-0. Now they're just one of many teams that made a valiant comeback but fell short after falling behind 3-0. Last night, we would have seen something that hadn't happened in 80 years. That would have been pretty cool to see something that hadn't happened in 80 years.
Yeah, I mean, it'd been cool if it had been an American team that would have been the team coming back, sure, but
whatever. Yeah, whatever. I mean, American team, Canadian team, that's perfectly fine. We also saw something last night happen for the first time in Major League Baseball history. Cole Reagans pitched got a win against the Marlins. First time that's ever happened. Did you know that? First time it's ever happened in Major League Baseball history that a player named Cole Reagans got a win and a decision as a pitcher against the Marlins. Crazy stat. I saw that last night.
Would have been even better if it goes, first player named Cole Reagans to throw 108 pitches, give up 4 hits, 11 strikeouts, and 3 walks against the Miami Marlins. Yeah. First time.
And that too. That was the fine print, but that's also part of it. I think they were trying to make that was too specific. They wanted to make it a little bit cooler and more broad about that. Yeah. So
okay.
A lot of history being made last night. The College World Series, the first time the number 1 national seed has won it since 1999. Only the second time ever, because 1999 was the first year of the national seeding for that. So there's now 2 of them, but Tennessee pulls that off and gets the win. I was intrigued by some of the storylines last night. I thought there were some really cool storylines in sports last night because, we see the news with the Royals when they made their moves. Adam Frazier to the IL, Michael Massey activated, Velazquez optioned, C.J. Alexander, called up from AAA. The cool story. The debuts are always awesome. I love the debuts. I love the stories. I love the parents in the stands. And last night's was a different story because you had the parents in the stands at a Major League Baseball debut for one of their children for the second time this year. His brother Blaze, playing for the Diamondbacks, made his debut earlier this year. I'm hoping C.J. Alexander is still with the big league club next month when they play the Diamondbacks, because that would be a cool story with C.J. and Blaze. Both on the field. It's a really, really neat story there. So there was that storyline with the Royals, specifically locally. There was the Panthers winning, and then, Matt Tkachuk and the Tkachuk family and his dad that, played, 17 years in the NHL and never won a Stanley Cup. And his son, wins a Stanley Cup. His brother, that's also in the NHL, is there. Though he talks about after the game, Matt Tkachuk did, about leaving the house earlier in the day with his whole family there and walking out, and thinking we either win the Stanley Cup tonight or lose, but hadn't happened in the Tkachuk family, and it's such a name that's synonymous with like hockey. Like you hear Keith Tkachuk, you know hockey, it's the NHL, and so that storyline was really cool. And then the College World Series, not just a team, being a national seed, but Tony Vitello, and you've got the local sort of connection with having yet another coach that Missouri missed on, that they interviewed and could have hired and decided to go elsewhere. And it turns out that guy goes and wins a national championship. Has that ever happened before? I'm trying to think if that's ever happened to Missouri when they were looking at a couple of different coaches and they decided to hire one of the coaches. The other one went on to win a national championship. That hasn't happened before, so this is the only time that has taken place. At least this time, the guy didn't go to school there and coach for a long time there and really, really, really want the job.
Don't do this. Don't.
Damn it. He did want the job, didn't he? Yeah, but you know what? It's not like there was going to be any famous alumni that was going to help out with money and help with fundraising and help get facilities back in order. He didn't recruit any, famous alumni that are, guys that are some of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball and going to be a Hall of Famer. It's not like I'm just spitballing here. Max Scherzer wasn't going to help out or anything like that.
I'm just going to go ahead and say, by the way, Jason, I'm still stuck on the fact that C.J. Alexander and Blaze Alexander are brothers. And not only that CJ's name is Charles, and then Blaze Alexander's actual name is Blaze. Like they're like,
I do want to get into that. That is actually something I wrote down last night. Is just like Blaze is not. I wrote it down. Blaze is not a nickname.
Yeah, it's like CJ is the nickname. It's hey, his name. Hey, all right. So Charles.
He's got the nickname.
Charles is the eldest, and then I guess Blaze.
They just wanted to be different, Sometimes you see a family with a lot of different sounding names. It's like, okay, yeah, this one was like CJ. We went the route of being, sort of old school, generic. Let's do something fun here.
I can't talk. My name's Sterling. I can't say it's Jason, Dylan, and Sterling on this show. I'm the Blaze of the show.
What were we doing that night that he was conceived?
Wow.
Blazing it up.
That's
how it happened.
Hey, Dylan.
Sometimes you never know, man. Let's call him Blaze. Let's do it.
Dylan, who's lighting it up? Blaze Alexander, baby.
Blaze
come on, don't take it
parents.
from me. I had it. It was written down.
That was Friday. Come on. That was an easy one.
It's
a layup for him.
Yep.
Coming up on Friday with Blaze Alexander. It is phenomenal that you've got a CJ and a Blaze that that make up that particular family. But while, yes, there's gallows humor that goes along with the College World Series last night, it is a part of history with, Missouri and that local connection that you did have somebody that was there and they missed. Mac Rhodes got it wrong. He got it very wrong, in fact, like really, really wrong, in fact. I mean, you can argue that at the time, the coach on football, Barry Odom, with what was going on, might have been a perfectly fine hire. And 4 years later, they end up getting Eli Drinkwitz. And Barry Odom goes 500 over those 4 years, and he had to do a lot of rebuilding with the protests going on and everything behind the scenes, and Gary Pinkel retiring and having, battling cancer. So Barry Odom at the time being a Missouri man, right, a Mizzou guy, to come in and sort of stabilize the ship there. I think Barry Odom did his job, and then a few years later they say, hey, let's see if we can upgrade. And they went and got it right in Eli Drinkwitz, and so that's very good. They could have got Sam Pittman as that, Sam Pittman is going to go to Sam Pittman and Eli Drinkwitz. One's going to Missouri, one's going to Arkansas. Well, Missouri won the bidding war on Eli Drinkwitz. Arkansas hired Sam Pittman. Well, they got that one right, and that's good. But this one sucks because it seemed like there was some it just felt like there was an easy connection. It just felt like it was so easy for him to be hired to help get some of the facilities there, and they wanted somebody with head coaching experience, and they go down to Southeast Missouri State, and they get Blazer, and Vitello gets the Tennessee job, which, clearly wasn't worried about. I mean, Missouri passed on him, and Tennessee was like, we'll take him. He doesn't have any head coaching experience, but we feel like this guy can help turn this program around. And they hadn't been to the postseason in 12 years when he got hired at Tennessee. Now they've won the College World Series. And there are stud coaches, and I felt this way about all sports. So whether that is in college basketball, in college football, college baseball, NFL, MLB, NBA to a degree, but how much does coaching matter? Coaching can sort of help get you over the hump, but you got to have those stud players already. But there's a really, really good coach that in the future will win a national championship that right now is an assistant coach somewhere. And we know that for a fact. It's just a matter of finding that. So getting stuck on we have to have head coaching experience, we got to have this, we got to have that. There is somebody out there that's going to win a national championship that is an assistant coach somewhere currently. And it's the AD's job to get those things right. And so hiring an assistant coach versus hiring somebody that has, head coaching experience, does it matter? Does it not matter? I mean, Tom Izzo was never a head coach, and he slid one spot over and took over there at Michigan State and won a national championship. He's been to, I think, 15 Final Fours. It's been a lot. But he didn't have head coaching experience. And, of course, there are plenty of guys that did have head coaching experience and moved up the ranks. Bill Self, first time we've mentioned him today on the show. Head coaching experience, gets to Illinois with previous head coaching experience, and now at Kansas, and he's won a couple of national championships. So it's not an all or nothing, but there are guys out there right now who are assistant coaches that will win a national championship. 10 years ago, what's that?
Joe Mazzulla for the Celtics.
Right. Yeah, he was sitting behind the bench. He was one of those guys that was throwing guys towels when they were coming over in timeouts, and the guy steps on the other side.
Assistant job at Fairmont State was his resume.
J.J. Redick.
There you go.
J.J. Redick from podcast host to head coach. Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, maybe it is. We'll see. I mean, it could be. He could be just a dynamite NBA head coach. And I'm not saying he's not going to be because he doesn't have the credentials. I mean, again, we've seen different guys. Like 10 years ago, if you'd have said the number one coach in America in 2024, 2025 is going to be an argument between Bill Self and Danny Hurley at Rhode Island, probably would have been like, shut up, man. Come on. Okay, sure. All right. We'll see. Maybe Bobby Hurley, who's moving up, and I don't know where he was at that time. I don't think he wasn't at Arizona State. But regardless, I don't think it's going to be Danny Hurley. But it ends up, it was Danny Hurley, right? And we've seen these particular guys, win national championships. And yeah, there was a part of me that was happy for the Vitellos and winning the national championship, and somebody who is a Mizzou alum and coached there for a long time. You're happy for that person. But there was also a little bitterness, I'm not going to lie, a little feeling of missed opportunity, a large feeling of missed opportunity. But there was also some sort of symmetry that went along with last night's game. And that is Dylan Dreiser, who was the most outstanding player from Hays, Kansas. Great story, goes to Tennessee. But the sort of symmetry and everything coming full circle is that Vitello gets the job in 2017, summer of 17 at Tennessee. Goes through his first season and then goes through his first recruiting cycle. Now, his first full recruiting class is that, freshman incoming class of 2018/2019 baseball season. So Dylan Dreiser was not a part of the first quote-unquote recruiting class, but Dylan Dreiser committed to Tennessee that summer in 2018. So he wasn't a part of the first recruiting class, but he was one of his first, full recruiting cycle commits. And then he kept him committed for 3 more years. And now he's the most outstanding player in winning a College World Series. That's a pretty cool story, right? I mean, whether it's Tennessee, wherever, Mizzou, Kansas State, wherever, it's a pretty cool story. Somebody gets an opportunity, been an assistant coach for a long time. His alma mater passes up on him. Another team in the SEC says, we'll hire you. He takes over a team that hadn't been to the postseason in 12 years, but it had some College World Series appearances in the past, but hadn't even been to the playoffs or the postseason, a regional, in 12 years. And he takes over in his first recruiting cycle. He gets a guy who's a freshman at Hays, Kansas, and that guy goes and wins the most outstanding player in the College World Series for him.
That's crazy.
It's pretty awesome.
That's
there's some cool things that happen in sports.
Badass.
Yeah.
By the
Simple
way, when
things
you were
like that.
doing that whole conversation of who's an assistant who's all of a sudden going to be a stud, I went to Kirby Smart. That was the name I was looking up when he was at Valdosta State defensive back coach in 2000. I don't know if anyone thought he was going to be that guy.
I did. I was telling everybody, Valdosta State, look, I was doing the play-by-play at Northwest Missouri State for the student radio station, and I'm like, look, this Valdosta State guy, it's Kirby Smart, man. This guy's going to win national championships. He's going to be the next Nick Saban. And everybody was like, Nick Saban at Michigan State? I'm like, yeah, the next Nick Saban, bud. Watch out.
And then he went to, obviously, he went all over it. Florida State, LSU, Georgia. Then he went to Miami for 1 year. Then Bama, and then, of course, Georgia. By the way, did you know that he was all first team, all SEC as a defensive back in college at Georgia? Because I did not know that.
Well, I knew he was. I didn't know that he was all SEC, but I knew he was alumni there, which is why it's like, when Nick Saban retires, I go get Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart's at Georgia for a lifer. Kirby Smart's going to retire or get fired at Georgia.
I'm just saying, I look at Kirby Smart, it does not scream defensive back.
Picked off Peyton Manning, actually. That's a fact. He actually has an interception against Peyton Manning.
Wow.
That.
Stud.
Yeah. Well, I mean, defensive backs have sort of changed over the time, I mean, was he a safety? Was he a in-the-box safety?
I don't know. He did go to the Colts, to the practice squad, signed a free agent contract.
And it was his first career interception, so that's pretty awesome.
That's awesome.
September 9th, 1995.
He's fourth all-time in interceptions at Georgia.
Take that, Peyton.
And he was smart because he was a four-time member of the SEC Academic Honor Roll, so Kirby really is smart, really doing his last name proud.
Smart fella. Everybody with the last name, you've got a lot to live up to. I mean, it's a prerequisite. Like, you have to be that. I mean, we changed our surname from Dumb just because we got tired of trying to live up to that.
To
and
Anderson?
Now it's just Anderson.
Huh.
Yeah, now it's just Anderson. It was a smart switch that we made a number of years ago.
Yeah, I just misunderstood. My last name's Holmes, and I thought it was Holmes, and so I thought I had to get into real estate. That was
makes sense.
That was just
You named after the road?
Yeah, and Sterling Avenue. Yeah, both.
Wow, that's pretty cool. We were thinking about naming my son Blue Ridge. We decided to name him after the mountain Everett. All right, we need to take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. Royals get the win last night. It was a win against a bad team, but a win that they had to have nonetheless. We'll talk about that. Cole Reagans was awesome. J.J. Piccolo, a new role for Chris Bubich that they are going to spend the next 10 days getting him ready for the Royals. We'll talk with Daniel Holmes coming up at 11 o'clock, some NFL football. We will hang out with Les Norman coming up at noon, breaking the norm. All that's still to come here on Sports Radio 810 WHB on a Tuesday. football, some Royals, some life. We'll do that coming up about an hour and a half from now. We head up until 2 o'clock. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show. Text says, someone told me Nerlens Noel has a brother named Jim. So if you're keeping score, the parents named one child Nerlens and the other Jim. That is true. He's got a younger brother named Rodman, too. They all three played Division I college basketball. Don't ask me where they all three played. I know Nerlens played at Kentucky, but I have no clue where the other two played. But yes, he does have an older brother named Jim. So it's a great point. CJ? Blaze, let's do it. Let's have a little fun. Let's get crazy here.
And Charles was first too. Charles was first too. So I think that's what it is. Is like, okay, we'll name the first one just a common name, and then we'll go. You know what? It's with the times. Names have changed, man. Names have changed. How many Jasons do you know now that are younger?
None. None. We don't. They don't make Jasons anymore.
Yeah, we don't employ 3 of them here. There's no other.
No, but the age.
What was the cutoff when we stopped naming kids Jason?
It's like
98.
I think it was 04.
04.
Yeah.
So anybody younger than 20, there are no more Jasons being made.
Well, it's almost like Gertrude.
Everything's Aiden and Jackson and and
Blaze.
Those.
I
Blaze, Everett, Sterling.
How many Gertrudes are there anymore? Like Gertrude was very popular, right? Like
we don't make Gertrudes anymore. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I wonder what year that sort of just stopped when people are like, you know what, Gertrude, that's kind of an old name. I don't think we're going to go that route anymore. I think we're going to do something new and fresh.
But it's cyclical, so it's going to come back, right? It's cyclical, Jason. That name's going to come back.
We're going to do something cool and fresh, like Michelle. It's no longer Gertrude. I'm just talking about way back when Gertrude ended up going out of style. That you had some new and cool names like that. Now we've got everybody's named Avery. There's a lot of Averys out there, whether it's boys, girls, whatever. It's fun. It's all fun. Whatever you want to do. You want to name your kid Jim? You want to name your kid Nerlens? You want to name your kid Rodman? That's perfectly fine. Name your kid Blaze. That's great. He's going to stick out. He better be fast.
Oh, imagine
I have
being
no
named
idea if
Blaze
Alexander
and you're
is fast.
slow. Oh man, that's brutal.
I have no idea if he's fast or not. But if I hear that name, one, you're right, Sterling. You nailed it. I think it's a nickname. First of all, I hear that name. I think it's a nickname. After that, I think he's fast. It's like the Down Periscope movie with when one of the characters' name was Nitro, and they were like, Nitro, that's a pretty cool nickname. He's like, yeah, it's not a nickname. It's my name. It's Nitro. But I've been thinking about a nickname, Mike.
Yeah. By the way,
I think of with Blaze.
Blaze in 475 games in the minors and majors only has 56 stolen bases and 20 times he's been caught stealing. So,
what does he have in the majors specifically? What's he got this year?
This year he's 3 stolen bases in 54 games and 1 caught stealing.
Not blazing.
So
there's no Blaze.
There's no Blaze.
There's no Blaze. No Blaze to his name when it comes to speed.
We can call him Quicksand.
Again,
Quicksand Alexander.
It's a cool story. Cool story last night. Let's hear from Vinny Pasquantino in the Royals clubhouse after the game was over. The Royals get the win. They return to their winning ways after going on the losing streak and getting swept by the Rangers. And they play much better baseball at home. They've got a much better record at home. Here's Vinny Pasquantino on what is going on with this team and getting this win.
Yeah, I think we're pretty realistic about it. Like, we sucked on the road trip. There's not much more to say about it. It sucked. None of us were exactly thrilled with how it went. We've been harping on it all year, last year, everything, day by day. Today was a good day. Move on to tomorrow.
Is there something to be said about coming home and being able to kind of reset and put the road trip behind?
Yeah, it's nice to play in front of these fans. We've got great fans, so it's really cool to be here. Good crowd tonight. This place is pretty full on a Monday night, which, by the way, I thought it was Friday when I got here today. I thought we were in the City Connects. It's Monday. Not even close. About as far away from Friday as you get. That's how miserable the road trip was. That's how bad we played. I don't even know what day it is. But I know tomorrow is Tuesday, so that's a step in the right direction. But, yeah, the fans are awesome tonight. Ready to get back out in front of them tomorrow.
There's so much from that clip. One, I can't wait to ask Les Norman how many times he lost track of the days when you're going through like every day you're playing, you're playing. It's easier to keep track of days if you have like, a Monday through Friday schedule. Not everybody does. But if you've got a Monday through Friday schedule, it's like, all right, Monday through Friday, here's Saturday, here's Sunday. Now I'm back to work on a Monday. Maybe a little more difficult if it's like, hey, Wednesday's my Friday. I'm off on Thursday. You might lose track of days there. But he thought today was Friday. And he's right. I think Monday is as far away from Friday as it gets. I think it is the exact opposite of Friday is Monday.
Not by like the amount of days in a week, but like the feeling for sure. Not even close.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost the day. I mean, it's Monday, Tuesday split between that is like the exact opposite of Friday, but you either get 2 days or 3 days in between if you're talking about Monday or Tuesday. But Friday is that Friday feeling, and Monday is the case of the Mondays. And luckily they didn't have a case of the Mondays. They didn't need to throw the City Connect jerseys on for a Friday, and they went out there and they won the game. But he's right about the home and road. This team is 17-23 on the road and playing .425 baseball when they're away from Kauffman Stadium. They're 26-14 at home. How many times, Sterling, have we seen this Royals team that it's like, hey, go out to the K and watch the Royals? It's like, yeah, they suck. Not only are they losing, but they're terrible at home.
Yep.
Like they're just. It's like every once in a while we would see teams that are like, why is this team so good on the road? Well, they just get away from the stress and the pressure of like not winning, and they can just go and be themselves. Like Andy Reid is like incredibly good on the road compared to like he plays at Arrowhead Stadium. Like his teams play at Arrowhead Stadium, yet his team's really good on the road, which is why a lot of people looked at last year's playoffs and went, all right, we'll see. Like, why is it people talking about, well, now they're going to finally have to play on the road? Okay, I don't think people understand how good Andy Reid's teams are on the road, and we saw that. They went and won both games on the road in the playoffs, but we've seen some Royals teams that have just been terrible at Kauffman. And look, if you're going to compete and be good and be in contention, and you've got a home-road split of wins and losses, then it's great that you are kicking ass at home because you're going to attract more fans because they're going to go out there for more wins. They're going to have more fun. They're going to return to the ballpark, and then that's going to start building on itself. Plus, you've got that confidence of playing at home, and that's interesting that he was like, yeah, I mean, we're coming back home. So, let's do it. And they came back home, and now I don't know that I'm all of a sudden super pumped and confident about a 4-game series starting on Thursday because of one game against the Marlins. But if they believe there's something to playing at home, then there's probably something to play at home. And it's one of the things I also wrote down to ask Les Norman, like, okay, if you believe in your mind as a team, like, hey, we're returning home, here we go. Let's see what we're really made of, because this is where we have, put a lot of those wins and gained a pretty decent margin here on our, record. If you believe that, does it start to sort of build on itself?
Well, there's definitely something to them playing at home versus away. Not just mindset, but obviously what they've done. This makes it very, very easy because they've played 40 games at home, 40 games on the road. Mm-hmm. I'll go with the batting splits first.
Yeah.
When they are at home, they're slashing .270, on base .334, slugging .445 for an OPS of .779. That's incredible. That's their home batting splits. On the road, they're batting .218, on base .278, slugging .353, OPSing .632. So when they're at home, they're like, who's a really good above average hitter? Who's a really good above average player? It's almost like they're Salvi at home, and on the road they're Chris Getz. They're Chris Getz. Like
Melendez has been better as of late, but yes, at one point it was Melendez. Yes, but
I mean that's the difference. And again, Kauffman is very large, so you expect more triples. They have 13 triples at home, 6 away, even doubles, 75 doubles at home, 62 away. But they have 43 home runs at Kauffman and 36 on the road. That is shocking to me. They have 214 runs scored at home, 152 on the road in the exact same amount of games. They have been so much better at home. They're taking more walks, better average, more home runs. They're just more comfortable, whether it's the batter's eye, don't know what it is, but the batters are so much more comfortable at home. It is shocking the difference.
Yeah, it's it's love it. I mean, it's working for them right now, and the 40 game split. It's in a perfectly symmetrical right now, in having that. And I remember looking at it last week, or was it 2 weeks ago when they played the Yankees? I guess it was 2 weeks ago, because last week they played the A's. So 2 weeks ago when they were getting ready for that 4-game set against the Yankees, and we said, oddly enough, the Yankees are a better team on the road offensively, even though they play at Yankee Stadium, which would typically be an offensive stadium. But they are the third best team in OPS on the road, are the Yankees, and the Royals are the second best OPS team at home. And so it was that matchup of like two of the better offenses in that setting of a team on the road and a team at home. And, it didn't necessarily play out that way, unfortunately. So 779 OPS. This year, a 780 OPS, and it's not necessarily his career, but it's what he's doing this year. Corey Seager is 780. So at home, the Royals are an entire lineup of Corey Seager's, how he's playing this year. Not necessarily Corey Seager that we've seen him hit, tons and tons of home runs, right? He's got I think 14 or something home runs this year. So they're Corey Seager at home. And when they're on the road, they are Anthony Rizzo.
Oh, he's been so bad. My gosh, he's been atrocious this year.
Yeah, so they're also Michael Garcia is right next. Michael Garcia has a actually, you know what? Michael Garcia has a 632 OPS.
Yikes.
And the Royals are 632 OPSing on the road. So when they're on the road, they're an entire lineup of Michael Garcia. And that's, not the hot stretch, unfortunately. That's the entire season with Michael getting on base at 287.
What's interesting here, Jason, too, just pitching-wise, they've been about the same. Batting average at home, they're giving up slightly more. The pitchers are. Slugging is very close. Opponents OPSing 709 at Kauffman, 682 on the road. Obviously, I think the Yankees may have had a little something to do with that, right? ERA 4.01 at home, 3.73 on the road, which I think kind of goes almost against the traditional thought of Kauffman being a pitcher's park.
Yeah.
It is to an extent, right? It is to an extent. In the case of you're probably not going to hit quite as many home runs. Obviously, the Royals are putting that to rest right now. But because the ballpark is so large, you get a lot of doubles, you get a lot of triples, which in turn can lead to more runs given up. The Royals' outfield, as we've talked about, is not quite as defensively talented as we've seen in the past. MJ's been a lot better than we expected, but MJ Melendez is about a league average left fielder. Kyle Isabel's been great, but right field for the most part between Nelson Velasquez, Hunter Renfroe, the arm of Renfroe might be fine, but as far as actually tracking balls down in a very large outfield does not lend itself to helping out the pitchers in that instance. I guess I'm not that surprised, I should say, about the Royals' home road pitcher splits than I think a lot of people might be.
Yeah, the games that the Royals have played in, so 40 at home, 40 on the road, the games the Royals have played in, there have been 77 more runs scored at home in those games, combined with both teams. So in the 40 games, you're looking at almost 2 extra runs per game when the Royals are playing at home, in overall total runs for both teams than on the road. So it is interesting. It's been a more offensive ballpark this year, and it has been for a little bit. But it's certainly than all of the different road ballparks they've been to. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. I do want to talk about Cole Reagans. I want to talk about Chris Bubich and what J.J. Piccolo had to say. We're going to do some Chiefs topics. There was a topic and a question that was asked this morning on Get Up, on the ESPN, on the ESPN. And I'm, sitting here in this studio and getting ready for the show, and it's on in the background, and, the volume's down, and I just see the sort of topic, and I'm like, maybe I'll ask her to see if there's anything actually, to this. If there's something to this or not. I also want to get into the wide receivers, et cetera. So we'll talk some Chiefs. And then I had this feeling last night as I'm watching the clock tick away for Game 7, and just the feeling of deciding games and the different ways the sports end, and just started thinking about all of the ways that the clock runs out or certain ways that the game is governed. And I want to get into that too, because I had a certain feeling last night watching it that sometimes you don't have when you're watching other sports in how the game ends. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll talk Cole Reagans, Chris Bubich, and more next. Paul Hoover in the plane ride back after the game against the Rangers and walking past Cole Reagans and going, no big deal. We're all good. We got our stopper on the mound tomorrow. And just sort of planting that little seed right in there. And that's essentially what your ace is supposed to be. And Cole Reagans has been ace-like for a while. He had the bad start against the Anaheim Angels. and gave up 7 runs in that particular start. But since that start, so it's 8 games that he's pitched in, 8 starts since that rough one against Anaheim. He's averaged 6 1/3 innings, so he's pitched into the 7th inning. He's given up 10 earned runs. In those 49 innings, he struck out 63, and he's walked only 17. So it's a sub 9% walk rate and a 33% strikeout rate for Cole Reagans, with a 1.84 ERA and essentially a 1 whip, with 50 base runners in 49 innings. And not only that, Sterling, 2 of his last 4 starts have resulted in career highs in swing and misses, in whiffs. June 9th against Seattle, he got 22, which was his career high, and then last night he got 26. So 2 of his last 4 starts have also been career highs in swings and misses for Cole Reagans. His last 8 starts, sub 2 ERA, and 33% strikeout rate. And pitching into the 7th, so it's not like he's striking everybody out and pitching into the 4th or 5th because he's using all of his pitches. He's able to go a little bit deeper in some of these games. And last night he was absolutely brilliant, and they needed him to be that. And a couple of guys get on base with 2 outs, and those were innings, Sterling, that last week I think they would have scored 3 or 4 runs, and the Royals would have lost 4-2. And you would have went a bloop here, a bloop there, and they end up losing. But Cole Reagans found a way to get out of them.
Dude, he's been a stud. I mean, There's only been one start that I think you're really looking at, and you're like, okay, he got shelled. It was the 7 runs given up in what was like a third of an inning, something like that. He's a 3.03 ERA on this season, including the absolute blow-up of a start. I mean, everything about Cole Reagans has screamed ace. The whiff percentage, as you're talking about, I'm just going full season here. He's in the 92nd percentile for the full season of whiff percentage. That's insane. That's bullpen and starting pitchers combined. Cole Reagans has been everything, I think, and then some. I know expectations were high because of last year, but I mean, you have to be absolutely thrilled for a guy who started 12 games last year. In 2022, started 9 games and at a 4.95 ERA. All of a sudden, he was, top 5 Cy Young betting odds heading into this year. Yeah. And all he's done is put up a 3.03 ERA in 17 starts and is getting better. It's damn impressive, man.
Yeah, if he continues on this run, which I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be. I mean, again, he had that rough outing against L.A. on May 11th, but 8 outings since then, and the guy has a 1.8 ERA and 63 Ks in 49 innings. He's pitched like a Cy Young candidate in that time. He is the 6th betting favorite in Major League Baseball for the Cy Young in the American League. Skubal, Corbin Burns, Garrett Crochet, Tanner Houck, Logan Gilbert, and then Cole Reagans.
Insane,
so he's still right there, even with a couple of blow-up games where he gave up 7 runs against Baltimore and 7 runs against the Angels. We'll talk some football next. Daniel Holmes will be our guest. Norman coming up an hour from now. Get back into some baseball conversations with Les and some life conversations as well, as we typically do with Les Norman. But right now, as we typically do with Daniel Harms, we talk some football with him, the man from RGR Football, Cover One podcast, and now the Draft Network joining us here in the zone. Daniel, what's up, man? How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. I'm getting a little antsy, I'll be honest with you. It's the end of June is coming in here where we are very close to the start of training camp, and that's what it's all about, right? Getting through the summertime to get to training camp. So I'm doing well. It's very hot outside. I'm sure you guys all know that. It's trying to get my daughter outside with different situations, whether it's sprinkler or a slip and slide, has been the optimal solution. But she's hanging in there.
That's awesome. Good for you, man. Good for you. Daniel Harms, if you didn't know, also fantastic dad, besides being great when it comes to talking some football. By the way, do you know what today is? There's nothing like crazy, but today just happens to be, Daniel, 3 weeks from today is when the quarterbacks and rookies report to training camp. So after today, there's only 2 more Tuesdays. And then the next Tuesday after that's going to be reporting day for the quarterbacks and rookies on July 16th. It's that close, 3 weeks from today.
It feels like I don't know about you guys, but it does feel like they just won the Super Bowl, right? Like that just happened. Now we're in June and almost in July, so that's exciting. For me, I know it's just training camp, but for whatever reason, it's always more eventful, I guess, because the Chiefs do go away to St. Joe and they have the toughest training camp by all measures, accounts of other players and things like that. So it becomes much more of an event for fans and media members. So I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Visiting with Daniel Harms, RGR Football Cover One podcast, and I mentioned now the Draft Network. First of all, congratulations on that. What are you doing now with the Draft Network?
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And now I am, since I work at RGR and I have a podcast, I am part-time, but I am a scout. So every week I have 5+ guys that I will break down for TDN, do draft reports, and I will also be doing weekly film videos for them as well. So you guys know that I do my RGR stuff that you can find every Wednesday. My film rooms will be there, and now I'll also have some film videos up at TVN weekly on their YouTube page. So it's got lots of stuff going on, lots of stuff coming out. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm watching more players and prospects than I have ever seen at this point in June in my entire life. So it's definitely an adjustment period, trying to find that balance between work and taking care of my daughter and, managing the house and things like that. So it's been a little bit of an adjustment, but I'm finally getting into more of a groove now, and it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome, man. Are the players assigned to you? Do you have like a preference of like maybe a positional group or certain players? Like how do those 5 players each week that you're scouting and watching tape on and coming up with these videos come about?
So I get to pick the players that I want to do a video on. So every week I'll pick someone more closer to ones that people kind of know, that'll draw some names that you're interested in seeing and how they play and how they might perform for this coming up season. But the rest of the prospects are given to me, and I go through and I watch them if I can. And that's, again, based off how much film you have, and you have to maybe get creative at times with college film, as you know, most people that watch it do know that it's not the easiest thing to get a hold of to be able to really watch players in depth. So, yeah, definitely seeing players that I wouldn't have even scouted at this point at this time anyway, because you just get given the hand that you're dealt. But you learn a lot more this way on finding players that are going to be more, at least day 3 guys that I enjoy to watch. Like, that's the fun part, going through some of the unknown guys that I've never heard of before and getting to see them and developing, this guy has this tool set or has a lot more than I thought he would going into it. So that's been a lot of fun for me too.
And if you haven't seen it, if you're a Cyclone fan, you want to go to at InHarmsWay19 on Twitter or the X or whatever, because he got some videos and some little breakdown on Jalen Noel there at Iowa State. So if you're a Cyclone fan in the area, go check that out and see what he's thinking of number 13 there for the Cyclones heading into the season this year. Visiting with Daniel Harms. One of the things that's come up in the last week or so, and I know you did a video breakdown of Wanya Morris, and the conversation's been there all offseason about, is he going to be the starting left tackle? Do they bring somebody in? They drafted Kingsley. So now this competition that's going to take place on the left side of the offensive line. But then last week, the conversation came up about David Bakhtiari, and is he somebody the Chiefs should be interested in? Would it make sense? Would it make financial sense, depending on whatever that contract may be? Would it say anything about the left tackles if they were to, kick the tires on that? Do you have a feeling or a lean one way or another on if the Chiefs, in your opinion, should be interested in kicking the tires and maybe trying to acquire and bring in a David Bakhtiari?
Anybody that's going to bring veteran leadership to a room that has two first and second year players battling out for left tackle, I'm not going to be opposed to. Now, the idea is you don't bring a guy like David Bakhtiari in unless he understands he is not a starter. That you can't do that, in my opinion. You can't bring him in and say that he's going to even be battling for starting position because you just drafted Kingsley Suamataia and you have a camp battle between him and Wanya Morris. If you do that, you are now basically saying Kingsley's not ready, and you just drafted him, and maybe he might not be ready, and Wanya Morris is not taking the next step, which, in my opinion, will mentally derail early on what you need to get the best out of those two players. And that's the only way you can do that. And again, in my personal opinion, you want to have a true camp battle to get the best out of those two players and get your starter for the future figured out. So I do apologize if you can hear a balloon in the background. My daughter is messing around with it. It's just squeaking, and I can hear it over my self-talk. So
I love it.
But I've got no problems, and I think that they desperately still need a veteran that's there because, yes, Juwan Taylor is, quote-unquote, the veteran in the room, but he's like 26, 27 years old, so he's still a relatively young player himself, and there's no depth outside of those three players that you really can say can play right tackle or left tackle. So I still think they need to bring in, whether it's going to be David Bakhtiari or Donovan Smith, somebody veteran-wise with experience and the ability to come in if you desperately need it to, especially considering the uncertainty surrounding your emergency left tackle in Joe Thuney. He probably isn't going to be playing to start the season, at least what it sounds right now. We'll find out more as training camp unfolds. But there's, in my opinion, I do believe that they need a veteran there. So I wouldn't be opposed to bringing in David Bakhtiari, but to me, he needs to understand this is a depth position. You are not going to really be a viable starter, and if you are, the Chiefs are kind of in trouble.
Visiting with Daniel Holmes, and I mentioned that you did the video breakdown of watching Wanya Morris last year, and I don't want to misrepresent or misquote Sterling, but sort of the way that we view him a little bit differently. Sterling has a lot of optimism and hope for what Wanya Morris can be, and a progression and development over the offseason from year one as a rookie to year two in the NFL for an offensive lineman, and that jump that can be made. And I'm more on the skeptical side of Wanya Morris ever being somebody that you could put at left tackle and go, okay, we feel good about that we don't have to coach around constantly and game plan and give help and go in certain directions when there's matchup problems. I'm skeptical that he will grow into a guy that you don't have to know offensively, calling your own plays where he is and knowing that. What do you see from Wanya Morris when you watched him on film, when you watched last year, and is there a projectability for him to have that true competition that if he wins the job over Kingsley, he didn't win it by default, that he may have won it because the Chiefs feel like this is somebody that can protect Patrick Mahomes' blindside?
Yeah, well, like I said, last week I did a full breakdown of the games that he started for Kansas City, and I didn't include the Chargers game because I just didn't really feel like the last game of the season is the best showcase of what he was as a player. So for him, he was a toolsy guy coming out, right? He played right tackle at Oklahoma. The reason the Chiefs were like, you can play left tackle is because he's a very athletic guy. He has 35-inch arms. Like, he's big. You can see that he's probably needs a little bit more weight from last year. He wasn't filled out. He was just over 300 pounds, which I know it's hard to believe that a guy that's over 300 pounds should put out a little bit more weight, but he's not as lower half strong as you'd like to have from a guy who was starting at tackle in the NFL. What I mean by that is that his anchor, when you have pass rushers, honestly, he faced just a litany of pass rushers from the Green Bay game where he came in for the injured Donovan Smith until even going into the Bengals game where you've got Trey Hendrickson. So he was facing guys like just even against a fellow rookie coming out of Iowa against the Green Bay Packers. But you've got a lot of really good pass rushers that he played against, and he was very up and down, much like his collegiate career. So you have to be able to really put your feet in the ground, reestablish. For offensive linemen we talk about that little hop step that you see from them when they're trying to re-anchor. And they take both feet to kind of jump backward and try to put both feet in the ground and reestablish themselves in that physical area to be able to get the anchor in. He doesn't have that ability yet. It was more of like a skip back where one foot would go back and he'd try to get the other one. And what that does is it creates a lot of top-heavy lean. So you saw guys like Max Crosby, Josh Uche from the Patriots really take advantage of that and push him down, a little top-heavy at times. So he's very toolsy. This last offseason is going to be into training camp is a very important step for him. He needs to be, in my opinion, mentally engaged and not let the fact that the Chiefs drafted Kingsley Suamataia affect him if he's going to win that job. But with the length, his natural power, and the build, he has the ability to play left tackle. My question is, again, that anchor, if he isn't a little bit heavier, then I have real worries about that because he's still a little bit late getting out of his stance. And what that does, it puts him behind the eight ball, especially against some speed guys like Trey Hendrickson and Max Crosby, who were able to beat him around the edge. And when he's out of his stance a little bit late all the time, then it forces him to also get beaten inside because he's opening his hips towards that left side of the offensive line, which allows inside counters. So there were some good plays, quite a few bad plays mixed in there. So for Wanya Morris, it's got to be a really big developmental leap for him to actually. I think I'm with you where I feel more comfortable if he comes in having cleaned up some of those things. It would give him the best opportunity to really win that job. But as a depth player, I mean, I think he's really ideally what you wanted from a swing tackle.
Well, let me ask you this, because I brought this up last week when a conversation we were having just about the offensive line and just noting that, Kingsley and Juwan Taylor, like they didn't work in at guard in OTAs. So it's not like, hey, we're just trying to get everybody some reps. And Wanya Morris did get reps at guard in OTAs. Yeah. Even if it's a few, like it's still sort of, to me, there's a level of significance to that maybe just to keep an eye, a little nugget to the side. And I brought this possibility up a couple of times, and I was looking forward to getting your thoughts on this because of, your assessment and scouting and seeing these offensive linemen and watching Wanya Morris. Is there a possibility that the Chiefs are looking at the long-term construction of the team and saying, Creed Humphrey's got to get extended. If we extend Nick Bolton, Trey Smith is somebody that we're looking to extend, but all of a sudden the guard market just went out of control with Robert Hunt, and maybe we can't afford him anymore. So maybe we're seeing if Wanya can be the replacement for Trey Smith if we have one more year with him at right guard and then we let him walk. Let's just dabble a little bit to see what he looks like while also keeping him in the competition for left tackle. Is there that possibility that Wanya Morris could be a Trey Smith replacement or a Joe Thuney replacement or somebody like that, as opposed to maybe the Chiefs specifically saying this guy is a tackle, swing tackle, left tackle, right tackle, that's where he's going to play, and we'll have to figure out the other guard spots, whether that's re-signing Trey, Thuney, all of that stuff.
That's exactly what I think that they are doing. And for a team that's forward-thinking as the Chiefs are, they're showing you their hand a little bit because realistically, they don't know if they're going to be able to re-sign Trey Smith. There's a lot that has to get done, and I'll be honest, I don't believe his play dictates an extension like those at the top of the guard market, and he's going to be playing for that, right? Mm-hmm. And those contract year players, I mean, the late, great Therese Taylor always said the contract year is undefeated, right? Like that's what this is. Look at honestly, Mike Dana did last year. He played a little bit above reproach. He wasn't signed elsewhere, but the Chiefs re-signed him at a number that maybe people didn't expect coming from a rotational defensive end. And those things do add up. And you talked about both Creed Humphrey, Nick Bolton. They are going to have some other internal extensions to talk about, whether Patrick Mahomes wants to get redo his deal, things like that. So there's a lot of money constraints that you might have to. I mean, honestly, Trent McDuffie too. Like, we can't forget about Trent McDuffie. Yeah. He's going to be able to be extended after next year too. So it comes down to, you drafted a guy in Wanya Morris last year who played tackle, but he clearly has the ability to play all positions outside of center. Then you also draft Hunter Norzak, who plays guard, who plays center last year for Penn State, but also has experience playing right tackle. And I think that he's like the Nick Allegretti replacement, but also he could come in and spot start at guard if you need him to at multiple different times. So the forward thinking of the Chiefs saying Wanya Morris, maybe because of what I was talking about earlier, and maybe getting out of your snap a little bit late and having those dropbacks hurt you from a pass rush perspective. If we take that away and you just play guard, where you don't have to worry about that, you can use your physical nature that you have, like the want to finish as a run blocker. We saw him really be imposing in the run game and limit what you're asked to do from a pass protection standpoint and still use that length might be the best outcome for him, but also understand that if we got a spot start at tackle, you're our swing tackle, right? Yeah. That's kind of how I see this playing out, and I think that might be, like I said, the best situation for him.
Yeah, it's interesting. Daniel Holmes is our guest at the left tackle spot, and you brought up something earlier, and I want to jump back into that just a little bit before I get your thoughts on a running back. But the thought about David Bakhtiari and coming in under the knowledge that, hey, you're not going to start, you're going to be a veteran guy that can help out, but this is a competition between Kingsley and Wanya. And I wonder if this is the offseason where, the Chiefs drafted Wanya, drafted Kingsley. If they say, you know what, we've gone the Orlando Brown route, it didn't it didn't stick. There was a couple of years. I thought the trade was very worthwhile from what they got out of it, and they win a Super Bowl. They tried to re-sign him. He wanted more money. He ends up getting less, and they went the Donovan Smith route. They could go another sort of veteran one-year thing, and I do wonder if the Chiefs are maybe looking at this as, you know what, we just got to rip the Band-Aid off. If we feel like one of these guys has the potential to be a tackle for that left side for the next 3 or 4 years, then let's freaking figure it out. And if we got to figure it out while coaching around it, while they develop, then we're going to have to do that this year, because there are sacrifices that have to be made when you're paying Patrick Mahomes and you're paying Chris Jones and, you're paying Joe Tooney the money you're paying him and Travis Kelce, et cetera, and on down the line. And you want to pay Trent McDuffie and some of these other guys. Sacrifices have to be made. That maybe this is the year where the Chiefs just simply say, rip the Band-Aid off, sink or swim. We need to know what we have with one of these two guys, or do we need to be in the tackle market next year? And we won't find out if Bakhtiari comes in and plays, 7 games and sits and gets injured, and other guys are in and out. It's sort of a revolving door there.
No, I agree with you. And I think where I kind of liken this situation to, it's a not first overall pick with Eric Fisher, but that kind of a situation where you are going to put your resources into this player. You aren't going to bring anybody else in, at least to be a starter. You're going to find out what you have. And I think that while Eric Fisher did, he struggled in his first season, he progressively got better. And I think my opinion, and a large portion of people's opinion, was very underrated, especially nearing his end of his time in Kansas City. But that's what you have to do sometimes. You laid it out perfectly. They're paying a lot of other players, a lot of other positions. The tackle market and the guard market is extremely expensive. You have to get cheap some places, right? Look what they did at cornerback. They put young players on the field, and they said, we're going to figure this out. They figured it out. They also got a stud in L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie. That helps the situation, right? But you don't know that until you get them out there. And L'Jarius Sneed, 4th-round pick, probably would have been a 2nd-round pick had he not played safety his last season at Louisiana Tech. But you get a little bit of a discount there. And with Kingsley moving from right tackle to left tackle at BYU, you're saying, well, he's played now 2 positions. He didn't have 2 years plus to really develop at those places. So you may have gotten a discount there. So you're betting on the traits. That's, again, you want these players to develop. And unfortunately, sometimes you do have to just kind of put your hands up and say, hey, buddy, time to start learning how to swim. And it's not the greatest situation to be in sometimes, but early on in the season, we had seen the Chiefs be a little more lenient with, all right, we're going to have to figure some things out because they want to push towards the end of the year and figure things out then. So this is a good situation. You have a true can't battle, at least by all expectations, for Wanya Morris and Kingsley. And whoever wins will be your starting left tackle. And then they got to figure out how they're going to sink or swim in the NFL. So, and you got two big opponents to start the season, the Ravens and the Bengals. So you're going to find out really quick what needs to happen.
Well, as Dick Vermeil once said, it's time, son. It's time to take your diapers off and go to work. And so We'll see. It's time for them to see if they have something in this in the left tackle side for this team. And if they do, then great. You can save a little money there. If you don't, then we'll find out what they have to do. Last one for you. This is the first offseason for Isaiah Pacheco, a real actual offseason in the NFL coming into the rookie year, not a regular offseason. Last year was recovering from the surgeries and didn't have your typical offseason. This year, as he said, he let his body heal and then got back into, getting ready for this season full go. Can he handle close to the workload he did in the 4 games in the postseason? Or is he a guy that Andy Reid needs to look at and say 12, 13, 14 touches per game is what we need to do? And if there has to be a game of 20 or 21, because he was around 21, 22 touches per game in those 4 games in the postseason, is he a guy that can handle that for a good portion of the year, or only in certain spells? For this guy, now that he has an actual offseason to maybe ready his body a little bit more for the full workload?
So this is a tough question for me because I think he can, and mentally he clearly can. That's his mentality, right? He's a workhorse type of player. The problem is, at least from what we've seen over the last couple of years, is he's a very high-hipped, high runner where he doesn't get down. He doesn't really hunker down. He runs upright. Knees come up. He puts his head down, neck into his chest, and just kind of runs upright that way. And that leads typically to more injuries. You're going to get you're hurt around your thighs a bit more. You're going to get hit a little bit more close to that core a little bit. And that can lead to more injuries. Now, I think he can still take a lot of the workload, but you probably don't want him handling 20-plus carries every single week unless you're just going to be this is what the Chiefs do now. We're just going to draft young players at running back, bring in a bunch of UDFAs, which, again, this is pretty much what they've done outside of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and they've just been like, here, start throwing stuff at the wall and hope it sticks. And you just, at one time, you're going to just keep drafting these players and put them in situations and see who you got. And then 2-3 years later, they're just always going to be running these guys out. So you could see a situation where the Chiefs have Isaiah Pacheco this year, and they just give him everything he possibly can handle, and then rotate it out. That's how running back situations kind of evolved over the past couple of years, where you don't have to have a 3-down back anymore. You have your 1-2, you have a 3rd down back, you have a change of pace back, and you just kind of throw things at the wall. But if you get someone that is comfortable enough to catch the ball out of the backfield and run in between the tackles, as Isaiah Pacheco has shown, you can give him a little bit more every now and then, but then you still draft. So from a injury perspective, I think it's a little bit of a risk, considering both of his first 2 seasons have been kind of had a couple injuries pile up already. And as a young player who was older coming out of Rutgers at 24, I believe, you're going to probably try and squeeze as much juice out of this as you can. Mm-hmm. But he's not someone that's going to be in the Chiefs' plan for the future, in my opinion. So you may as well give him as much as he can handle and just kind of hope for the best.
Yeah, outside of the 2 really cold games, the Miami game where it's like, okay, he carried the ball 24 times in that game, and then, Buffalo, the last 2 games against Baltimore on the road and against San Francisco, he had a total of 42 carries, and he also had 10 receptions in those 2 games. So, you're looking at 25 and a half, 26 touches per game in those 2 games against Baltimore and San Francisco. I mean, whether it's handing the ball off to him or throwing it to him, Andy Reid was not afraid to get Pacheco involved in the game. And I think the throwing part of it also is like, we need to find other guys that we can get involved in the passing game, because you know, we see that it's not working with some of these other guys. So how do we get Pacheco the ball? We can't just hand it off to him every time. Let's throw the ball to him from time to time and see what he can do out in space. So we'll see. I'm excited about what he can do with an actual offseason, and knowing what life is like in the NFL after playing for 2 years, and maybe in his mind what his body needs to do to get through that. Daniel Harms, RGR Football, Cover One Podcast, and now the Draft Network. Daniel, great stuff as always, man. Very much appreciate the time, and best of luck with getting that outside time in while also not succumbing to 105 and 107 heat index. A lot of sprinklers and the slip and slides, and maybe some water balloon fights along the way.
Everything we possibly can. I've got a giant, squirt gun. We've got multiple of those. We're just going to do the works and see what we can make it through. So I appreciate you having me on. It's always,
absolutely.
It's always a great time.
Daniel, thank you so much for the time, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
There's Daniel Harms, RGR Football again. Great stuff from him, and In Harm's Way 19. So if you don't follow him on Twitter, what are you doing? Or X, whatever. If I'm not following him on Twitter, follow him on X. But In Harm's Way 19, and very cool that now he's part of the Draft Network and doing some of these scouts and everything. And like I said, great father, because every time we talk to him, he's always like, well, I'm with my daughter, we're doing this, and now it's like, look, it's hot outside, but we can't just sit inside all day. So we got to get outside and do something. All right, let's get the sprinkler going. Let's get the slip and slide, water balloon fight. My kids, we get the hose, and they have like a little sprinkler that we put underneath the trampoline, and so they're jumping around while the water's splashing and stuff. And we have water balloon fights in the trampoline. Can't run very far from that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We do some of that when it gets really hot outside, but we still need to get outside and not be cooped up all day on our devices.
Yeah. No, that's bad for you. So I'll just go outside and sit with a book and a Busch Light and just do that. That's kind of my my go-to. It's
does your fiance come and just like dump water on you to keep you cool while you're out there with the bush?
I should ask that next time. I should ask her that. Yeah.
There you go. Because I'm assuming tarps off while you're out there.
Well, of course tarps are off. Come on.
Did you even have to ask?
Jason, why ask that? That's just silly.
It was rhetorical, I guess.
Jason's lucky he has the excuse and as an adult to use the slip and slide. Like if you and me went out and used the slip and slide, kind of looks weird. But
no, not at all. I would
kids,
1,000% use a slip and slide.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just not going to do it.
But do you guys? I'm not some crazy old man with a midlife crisis trying to do a slip and slide. I'm just testing to make sure it's safe for the kids.
Boom.
Do you think I have shame, Dylan?
Well, yeah, that's a great point.
That's it. I don't. No, we don't.
Airtight argument.
If you think I'm not going to crush some beers and go down a slip and slide, I do it once a year. At my family reunion, we have like 150 people go, and we do a obstacle course where you have like tires. Then you got to push a kid in a wheelbarrow. Then you got to like shoot a shot and then like make something. Then you have to slip and slide to end it. Then you hit a klaxon, and the next person goes. We do teams. It's intense.
Do you guys have like the Chariots of Fire playing in the background? As
we do play music.
This
yeah,
Michael Keaton-esque.
It's pretty sweet.
Obstacle course.
The best is the kids in the wheelbarrows, and because it's Southern Indiana, it's Henryville again. It's Southern style, so you got to grow them tough. So there's in wheelbarrows, you're going to push them fast. You want to win. I remember one time one of the guys dumped it over because he was trying to save a second, and he goes, "It's okay, it's my kid."
It's my kid. It's all good.
His kid's name's Moose. So there you go.
Yeah. We always. It's always funny, like getting in conversations with like other coaches, like at Little League, and so I'll be like coaching third, and I'll be like, "Everett, hey," and he just ignores me. And another coach will be like, "Yeah, I get it." And I go, "Well, that's my son, so it's just going to be, it's par for the course." And the other coach is like, "Yep, I get that, totally." Yeah. If another coach told him that he should try this, oh, he's doing it. I do it. I'm fine, Dad. All right, I got this. All right, you're right. You've got baseball figured out. You're good. You've got the world. The baseball world is your oyster, and you've got it all figured out, man.
You know what? If he listens to other people, I'm going to come and I'm going to give him such good advice. Okay.
What's the good advice?
Just hit the ball. Just hit it, dude. Okay. Don't be a bum. Like yeah, it's all
I want you to sit behind home plate, behind the chain link fence and tell these 8-year-olds, hey, come on, don't be a bum. Hit the ball.
I'll be like
Hit the ball.
I'll be like a Boston dad. I'll be like a Sam Adams cut off shirt and just rip on these kids. Hey, Maki, hit the ball, you dumbass. Like that's. I feel like that's going to be a real good situation for these kids.
Or you can just be Kate and Kent's dad, Jeff, in the stands when his son gets picked off at first and is running back to the dugout and probably, upset and mad and feeling terrible about it. And he just points to his head like, hey, think, son, Doesn't have to do much. Just think. Understand I was an MVP of a league. All right, use your head. All right, the guy's going to bunch you over. All right, it's a tight game. It's a great pitcher on the mound. You're at first. You worked your way up first.
Well, how great can he be? He's 8, Jason. How great of a pitcher can he be?
Why are you working off the bag that much? I'm just talking about like in the actual College World Series on Saturday.
Yeah.
Or was it Sunday? It was Sunday.
Yeah.
Or was it Monday? Yeah, yesterday was Sunday. It was because it was game 2, right, Dylan?
Yeah.
That happened?
Yep.
Yeah, it was game 2 when he leaked off the bag a little bit when they were getting ready to bunt him over, and he got picked off, and Jeff Kent just pointed at his head.
I just think that I have a really good business idea of I scream at you. Hire me. I'll scream at your little league kid in a Boston accent behind home plate. Come on.
Right.
If you want to pay me money for that, I would. I feel like this is a business model. TM trademark.
I think you'll have plenty of time to trademark that idea. Plenty of time.
Yeah,
Think so?
You might be cornering the market. I will say it is an unsaturated element of a market right now.
Yeah,
so
you're the Duke brothers of that
You'd be
market.
pioneering on this, all right?
Yeah.
You're the Wright brothers.
I said that he's the Duke brothers from Trading Places. Yeah, he's cornering the orange market.
Cornering the orange market. You're going to be flying for the first time, all right? You're going to be the one that takes that that plane out for its first trip.
Clarence Beeks is giving him all the inside track to this.
Let me see how that works out for you. That'd be great, because they don't listen to their coaches. So the odds of them listening to you, Sterling. So, but you know what you should probably do is just get on the umpire wearing the other team's shirt.
Yeah.
Get on the umpire, and then the umpire gets mad at them.
Wow.
Like, all right,
Really good.
well, I'll show you then. Yeah, all right, I'll show you. Now I'm going to squeeze. Now the other team is going to get a better strike zone. Yes,
We figured it out.
Nice job.
Yep.
We're onto something now.
That's it.
That's your job. That's how you make some money. All right. That's how you do that.
Now, me and
You don't need
Jason
to get kicked out
trademarked
of the
that,
game.
actually. So we are TMing
that's right.
that. You can
Start this
TM
business.
the heckling
The
kids
negative,
one.
the negative reinforcement one.
It's the heckling kids
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
We'll do the heckling
Hey,
umpires.
I'm just saying, every time we do negative reinforcement, what happens, Jason? It happened with MJ, it happened with Nelson, it happened with Hunter Renfroe. It worked.
Vinny didn't go opposite field or center field last night.
But he still got it out.
He got a home run. He broke the 25-inning streak of getting shut out. So
We ripped on
there's
Chris
some-
Stratton. Now Stratton's good again. We ripped on Schreiber. He came through. We ripped on James
Right.
MacArthur. Came through. I'm telling you, negative reinforcement works, Jason.
I tell you what, the C.J. Alexander sucks. By the way, I want to talk about that with Les Norman, but I'm very excited about the thought process around moving some of these things around, right? At least looking at it and saying, we can't just simply stay the course that, hey, everybody's going to figure it out, okay, because we're slumping, we're heading in the wrong direction. There is an element of, okay, now we're changing things up, and the team going, whoa, why are we changing things up? So this is bad, what's going on right now? And so it isn't just every day is the new day, like just have to focus on today. Now you're saying there's issues here. There's an element of that, but there's also the element of, look, man, we got to win games. And Velasquez right now at DH, it's not working. He's not swinging the bat well. And if Michael Massey is coming back and can only hit for the time being, and it's going to take a little time before he's ready to be in the field, well, you know what? His bat needs to be in the lineup. And him being a DH is giving you more than Velasquez is giving you at DH. And so we call up Michael Massey. Frazier's out. So then we call up C.J. Alexander, and if Frazier's out and Massey is back on the team and isn't ready to play second base, well, Maikel Garcia then can move over, and we'll put C.J. Alexander over at third. Or Garcia can play third and Lofton can play second base. It gives you more options there to get different bats in the lineup depending on who's out there on the mound. So I like that of just sort of mixing and matching and trying to figure some things out. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We can talk a little bit about that. Also, what J.J. Piccolo had to say about Chris Bubich. We'll continue with more Zone on this Tuesday. Les Norman comes up at noon. Thank you to Daniel Harms talking some football there in that segment. More Zone next. Noon, and talk some Royals baseball with him, talk about some of the decisions that were made and the moves that were made by the Royals yesterday. So we'll do that coming up at noon. 913-912-4810 is the text line. The Royals made those moves yesterday to bring up C.J. Alexander, to move Michael Garcia to second base. Nelson Velazquez got optioned to AAA. And whether that was just circumstantial, Sterling, that, hey, you know what, Michael Massey, we got to get his bat in the lineup, and he can't play second base yet. He's not comfortable. We don't want to aggravate the back injury, but he's perfectly fine and feels normal swinging the bat. So how do we do that? Let's get him in here at DH. Well, if Massey's DHing, Velasquez and Hunter Renfroe's healthy, and MJ Melendez is healthy, and Garrett Hampson is still healthy, what's Velasquez going to do? Not much. So you essentially have to make a choice between Velasquez or Massey. Is it just that? Like, I think the question moving forward is, was it just a question of Massey or Velasquez, and that's it, and that's why the move was made? Or Velasquez was going to be one of the first guys moved out when a move needed to be made because he wasn't consistent enough in doing the things they wanted to see from a DH, And even a hot little stretch wasn't enough to overcome what he did before that and what he has done since then. So it's time to go down to the minor leagues, see if you can get some things figured out. Because at the big league level, it's go time. And this is a team that has gone from 6 games up in the wild card to now sitting outside the playoffs, and just sitting around and hoping that guys will figure it out is no longer a productive strategy. You've got to do some things on your own. So, if Massey can play the field again, does Velasquez come back up? Or they just find a different spot while Velasquez is down in AAA if he continues to struggle?
Well, I think it all comes down to what C.J. Alexander does. Obviously, that's a semi-cop-out answer, but Nelson wasn't bringing you anything defensively, obviously. And offensively, he was still a net negative, so he was a double whammy of, again, we all can go back to some of the home runs and some of the big-time hits he had. Obviously, I was at a game when he hit the triple, right, that the Royals came back and won. That is awesome. We love that. Zero consistency, though. You're batting 200, on base of 274, slugging 366 for an OPS of 640, and you are a DH. That is atrocious. That is brutal. That is unplayable. That does not deserve to be in the majors. Unfair or not, it's great we can talk about the good stuff he has done this year. He's done some decent stuff at big-time moments. That is awesome. But in totality, he's been a net negative. You look at the Royals' DH situation all season long, DHs this year for the Royals are OPSing at 657. I mean, that's brutal, right? The DHs
slugging. You said slugging, right? What a great number!
Slugging 381, on base of 276.
Right? Oh, God.
Like, the Royals had to do something, and Michael Massey, if his back's, there's some concerns if he can only DH. Well, him as a DH is a better DH than Nelson Velasquez, so it was the obvious answer. Mm-hmm. I think it was kind of obvious. I know people are going to be upset because they think Nelson brings some sort of power. Fine. But Michael Massey does too. You give Michael Massey the same amount of at-bats as Nelson has, he would have 8 home runs as well. Like, we get enamored with the 17 bombs that Nelson had in the 179 plate appearances last year. That's great. That's been the outlier. Yeah. Don't try and capture the outlier, because then you're stuck with Hunter Dozier's. Then you're stuck trying to have, well, he did it once before, right? So he can obviously do it again. No, that's not always the case. Sometimes guys go on hot streaks and it makes them look good. Hunter Dozier parlayed that into a contract. Nelson Velasquez parlayed last year into 205 at-bats. If he didn't do what he did last year, zero chance he would have had 205 at-bats, because he was unplayable this year.
Yeah, see, I don't think people, and I'm with you on all of that stuff. I don't feel much pushback of Velasquez getting sent back down. I think there would be more frustration if they just simply kept saying, we're just going to continue to do what we've been doing. Frazier is on the IL, and we're ready to activate Michael Massey, and so that's what we're going to do. And, hopefully he or Michael Massey isn't ready to play in the field, so we can't DH him. And so, we need to let him rest a little bit longer. We can't activate him just to come up and hit. And we're just going to keep doing some of the same things we've been doing. There would be a whole lot more frustration, because coming off that road trip and seeing what's happened in the standings, I mean, you've got more people watching and paying attention and scoreboard watching, which means they're more invested, which means they're going to be more upset and annoyed and frustrated if nothing happens, because there's talk about, all right, go make a move right now. Well, it's June 25th, and if the Royals could make a move that made sense, they absolutely would. I'd love for them to go and make a move right now. I don't want them to go and make a move for somebody that it's going to cost you your 3rd best prospect, when a month from now that guy would have cost you your 6th best prospect. But you got him for a month extra. Is that going to be the difference between you making the ALCS or the divisional or not? I don't know if that guy, does that for you, as opposed to next year, the year after that. So I think there's an element of people are on board with, at least they're trying to figure some things out with this particular group of players. And if that's Velasquez down and you call up C.J. Alexander and you activate Michael Massey, and Michael Garcia has to play second base a little bit to see what C.J. can do over at third base, then great. And by the way, MJ Melendez is stringing together really good at bats right now. And Hunter Renfroe hit one a mile last night, and Isbell drove in a run with 2 outs, and they're doing their runners in scoring position thing that they didn't do in the road trip at all. And so maybe now that starts to turn some things around and you get some positive feelings. I know me personally, I'd have been more annoyed if it's just same lineup, same guys, same everything, and they're not scoring. I like that there's at least a search for some answers to go along with this. And I also like the idea of a search for some answers in the bullpen, that you may not have to give up a prospect or anything, that you might have that in somebody who was a starter last year in Chris Bubich coming back, who is now going to move to the bullpen in the minor leagues with the 10 days left that he has on his rehab assignment. They will spend that getting him ready for the bullpen. He'll be activated. He'll be in the Royals bullpen early July, and hopefully that brings somebody that is an extra arm, somebody you can go to and rely upon. That would be fantastic. We'll take a break. We'll come back, wrap up this hour, then we'll talk with Les Norman about a number of these things, but from a player's perspective and, what's going on when they go through some of these slumps, and some other things that I want to get into with Les Norman, like the offensive numbers and what's going on and why those numbers are at a certain level that they are this year, historically down with all of these different extra base hits, home runs, doubles, OPSing and batting average on specific pitches. Fascinating stuff from Jason Stark and Eno Saris that I want to talk to Les Norman about. More Zone coming up next. from last night, which I think were really cool. I was trying to watch all three at the same time, watching the Royals game, watching the Game 7 of the Stanley Cup, watching the College World Series to see, what happens with that. And, I was rooting for Tennessee, and, for a number of reasons. I wanted Tennessee to win because of Tony Vitello and, that sort of connection there locally to a degree. And also I know that, a few fans don't represent an entire fan base and an entire sort of team or athletic department. But, the Texas A&M fans to the Florida dugout last weekend, not this past weekend, because that was on Monday or Tuesday that we were, I think Monday that we had a little bit of that conversation. But, when with that going on, it's like, I want to see Tennessee win. And it was a cool story. And, Dylan Dreiling, Hayes, Kansas, College World Series, most outstanding player. That was pretty cool. And to see some of the emotions, obviously, the emotions are going to be there in the Stanley Cup. But to see Keith Kachuk in the stands and see him as excited as he would be if he won it himself. Like, that's a different, that's crazy that you spent, your entire adult life career trying to experience that feeling, and your son does it, but the reaction is like almost the same as if you won it. There's tears, there's celebrations, there's all of those things. There was some awesome storylines last night. I loved it. And we'll see if we get any tonight. I don't know. Hopefully we get some tonight. Hopefully, Seth Lugo, no hitter tonight. Let's go.
Call your shot, man. I love it.
That's strong. I'll you know what? I'll buy in. All in. If Seth Lugo doesn't throw a no-hitter tonight, it's because you jinxed it.
Oh. that's the reason.
You jinxed it, man. If Seth Lugo does not throw a no-hitter tonight, it's because Jason Anderson jinxed it.
It's like everybody down in South Florida that said the series is over when they were up 3-0. They had jinxed it. It was their fault. Because all of a sudden, down 3-0, the Oilers players were like, hold on. There are media members in South Florida saying this is over? Oh, now we're going to play some hockey.
it's a blessing, but I can't help but think about there's so many people out there that don't get that news, that are still battling cancer and aren't cancer free or didn't get the good diagnosis. So, let's be praying and thinking about them. I got lucky and blessed, and I'm going to take it. My family's going to take it, but also I'm going to continue to be that guy that is going to have people get their PSAs and get their doctor's appointments. And I even had a friend of mine, I talked to him on the phone today. He's like, hey, man, just want you to know I got my PSA and my numbers are great, but there were some other issues that the doctor found. So, just going to the doctor, it isn't even just about the PSA or the potential for having prostate cancer. It's about just your overall health and just living a life where you're healthy and your family is comfortable knowing you're going to be around. And, we all want to work and lead our families and love our families and do great things and give to other people in life, but it's tough to do if you're not healthy. So I will continue to champion that and continue to champion those that aren't as fortunate. And one more time, it's people like you, Jason, and your crew, Sterling and Dylan, that let me use this platform for that. Don't want to hog that today because I know we want to talk baseball, but just, again, one more time, I want to say thank you for allowing me to do that because if what I've gone through can help somebody, let's do it, man. Let's roll.
And I think it has. I think there are so many people that have went and got their as you just mentioned. I mean, it's good news and scary news at the same time. You prompted him, inspired him to go get tested. He did. There are some other issues that at least now the doctors can start to figure out and get that taken care of. Where without you, who knows what would have been happening behind the scenes if he never got checked for something completely different, especially if it was something he didn't feel symptoms of but was manifesting underneath the surface. So you're already affecting lives, man. You've done that. You've done that ever since I met you. This is just now a different outlet to do that.
I appreciate that, man. But look, every one of us, whether we believe it or not, whether we think we're capable or not, every single one of us has the ability to help other people if we're just willing to use the gifts that we've been given instead of trying to think about, well, I wish I had that person's gift or that person's gift. We're all uniquely created, uniquely designed, and we have situations that are unique to us. And so the blessings that I get in life come abundantly more when I'm willing to help other people out. And so that's what I'm going to continue to do.
Les Norman is our guest, breaking the norm. Let's talk some baseball, Les. And It was a rough road trip, 2-7. It was pretty bad. Rough was putting it lightly. They come back home. They get a win. You've played the game. There's 162 games. Okay, so one win is a drop in the bucket. It's sand on the beach, in the bigger scheme of things. But is there a significance of whether it's the Marlins or not, that one particular win for this Royals team, winning, whether it was in the fashion that they won or just simply finding a way to put a W on the board and being able to try to erase and get past that rough road trip?
Well, obviously, Miami's a team that you should beat. I mean, you're better than they are. And so those teams that don't have good records, that are kind of the bottom feeders in the MLB, those are, no matter how you win, you need to get that W, especially when you come off of that 2-7 road trip. And it's interesting to me, the road trip teams, even the best teams, are going to have tough streaks. You're not going to win 150 games. I mean, you have to be able to weather it, weather those downturns. And what makes a team so good isn't just always the talent. It's the ability to fight through adversity. It's the ability to lead when things aren't good. When they were in Oakland, I had a couple friends of mine were visiting each other. They come from, one is in California at a different part of the state, and one's from Kansas City, and they fly out. And every year they'll take in one California series just to catch up. And so it was the game where Salvi got thrown out at second after hitting a line drive off the wall. Mm-hmm. And the camera I was watching the game, and Bally did not air Salvi running to first base. At no angle would they air it. And I understand why, because I texted a buddy of mine and I said, he didn't run that out, did he? And instantly the text came back was, nope, he thought it was gone. He was trotting. As soon as it hit the wall, and he tried to run and sprint. And so, look, we love Salvi. Salvi can do no wrong, and everybody makes a mistake here and there. But my biggest fear at the beginning or even the middle of up to this point was, are they going to lose focus? Any team can go 2-7. But when you start to lose focus, so you start to get comfortable where you're at, and maybe it was because they were playing Oakland. Oakland had, been on a long losing streak, and so maybe they thought, okay, bad road trip, but we can get a couple games here. And then you start doing things like that. Leaders need to lead. And Salvi will be the first to tell you, yep, shouldn't have done it, my bad. And you forgive that because everybody makes mistakes. But it's that lack of focus that can become contagious and start to make you settle a little bit like, well, we're the second place, third place team, maybe wild card, maybe not. And so I'm saying all this to bring it back to that game last night against Miami. That's the game you need to win to reset where you maybe had lost focus in the past.
So this is a team that, they were in the midst of and they're still going through this now because they had the postponement at Cleveland. And so it ends up being it's 3, 7, 8, 10, 13, 17, 18, and looking at the next, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 24 games in 25 days is what they're in the middle of going through right now. That stretch, you've played in those stretches, and you're talking about sort of like don't get complacent, don't lose focus. That's a tall task, right? In a stretch like that, 24 games in 25 days, that's difficult to not lose focus from time to time or have a stretch that you're just not playing well and you're not feeling it when you may be playing a team that feels fresher, that Texas is feeling like, okay, we're starting to turn it on, while the Royals are feeling like, oh, no, we're taking a downturn and we're in the middle of this. It's not necessarily the, quote, dog days of summer, but this is a tough June stretch where you're playing all these games with only one day off in the middle of it.
It is. And any team, good, bad, middle of the road, are going to have those stretches. And that's not the lack of focus I'm talking about. That is tough, and you really have to prepare mentally. But the example I use with the whole Salvi, not running out hard out of the box is those are the intangibles. I mean, how many times do you have to teach hustle to a professional athlete? You shouldn't have to. And again, if anybody out there's thinking I'm hating on Salvi, he is one of my top 3 favorite Royals of all time. I'm not bagging on him. It's just I'm using that as an example of how easy it is sometimes to just let that slip by. So when you're tired, and they are tired, and when you're going that 24 out of 25 and a lot of it's on the road, and you're going through a stretch where you're playing a bunch of first-place teams, Yankees were in there, Seattle was in there, Cleveland was in there. I mean, that even adds to it. That makes it feel like it's 35 games in a 24-game stretch. So I get it. I understand it, but that's where the big leaguer has to fight for focus. That's where you make sure win or lose, you're hustling nonstop all the time. You're giving everything you can, even if you're not locked in. Cal Ripken said it's almost impossible to completely lock in 4 or 5 at-bats per game every single at-bat. One time you might lose focus a little bit. That's just human beings. It's just what they do. So when you get in this stretch, you know it's going to happen, but you keep hustling and you keep doing the little things that you need to do. And hey, the Royals are still in a great spot. They're still, I think, 6 or 7 games over 500. So they're still in a great position for that wild card. It's not some big emergency thing. They're just going through a tough stretch, and last night's win was big.
Let's hear from Sterling. Go ahead. Real quick, and then I want to hear from Vinny.
Yeah, an interesting point here. I completely agree with everything you're saying. One thing I think the Royals could do, and they're trying to do to help themselves out, is with the leadoff spot here. They're just atrocious leading off games. Just the number one hitter, 237, 287, 344. So not just Michael Garcia. It's whoever has been the leadoff hitter. They are batting 237, on base 287, slugging 344 for an OPS of 631. Have you given any thought to potentially either A, moving Bobby Witt Jr. up? Because at this point, yeah, your best hitter is typically 2. You want to drive some guys in. But if he's hitting a home run right now, it's going to be a solo shot, whether he's batting first or second in the lineup. It doesn't really matter. If he bats first, he might get a few more at-bats. Right now, that's 13 more at-bats so far this year. What do you do with the leadoff spot right now?
That is a great question. And if you think about that, I mean, I've heard it from a lot of people and a lot across the internet and the media that, maybe they should move Bobby in there because he's driving in runs. The problem is who's he going to drive in? Because what's our 7, 8, 9 hitters doing and the one hole. So you move him up. If there's nobody on base, he's just driving himself in. And so, numbers-wise, it seems like a good idea. And could Bobby Witt Jr. handle that? Yeah, he could handle it. So if you put him in 1 or 2, he could handle it. The only thing I'm concerned about is that if he goes to the 1 spot, he knows why he would be moving to the 1 spot because of the lack of production. Now do you risk heaping more on the shoulders of your superstar player? And he starts to think, well, okay, now I'm in the leadoff spot. Now I have to get on base, and I have to. We know that the best hitters in the game and the most productive hitters in the game let the game come to them. They hit where they hit no matter what. So if Bobby Witt Jr. can keep the same mindset and they move him to the 1 spot, sure, that's great. Now who do you move to the 2 spot, though? Who fills in that gap right there? I like the fact of having Bobby, then Vinny, then Salvi, and then, right now, those are kind of the 3 guys I feel like are the most comfortable for me and the most consistent. I'd like to see, Vinny get on base a little more instead of long ball, but he has hit some balls hard this year. So I like the idea for maybe a short term, but in the long run, it's not going to really do a whole lot. So what I think Matt Cottrell is going to have to do is say, okay, whoever that guy is, whether it's Adam Frazier or whoever it may be, let's get Drew Waters back up here. We'll let him do whoever it is. It may not seem like the answer, but you're going to have to run with something different and give it a patient time to get it out of there, or to get the answer in there potentially, instead of just saying, okay, Bobby Witt Jr., for the rest of the season, you're going to be our leadoff hitter. Well, then his RBIs are going to go down. So I think Bobby's a short-term only. They're just going to have to figure something out where they say, okay, you're going to be that guy. We're going to run with it. We're going to let you go through the mistakes because it's really no different than what we're going through right now.
Visiting with Les Norman, Breaking the Norm, presented by TruckMovers.com, First Federal Bank of Kansas City, and Biesterveld and Crook. Let's hear from Vinny Pasquantino last night. This was a funny clip, Les, and it's funny because they won, and sort of, Vinny has a fun personality. But here's Vinny Pasquantino last night talking about, getting back home, road trip behind you, the struggles that were there, and winning Game 1 of this extended homestand.
Yeah, I think we're pretty realistic about it. Like, we sucked on the road trip. There's not much more to say about it. It sucked. None of us were exactly thrilled with how it went. We've been harping on it all year, last year, everything, day by day. Today was a good day. Move on to tomorrow.
Is there something to be said about coming home and being able to kind of reset and put the road trip behind?
Yeah, it's nice to play in front of these fans. We've got great fans, so it's really cool to be here. Good crowd tonight. This place is pretty full on a Monday night, which, by the way, I thought it was Friday when I got here today. I thought we were in the City Connects. It's Monday. Not even close. About as far away from Friday as you get. That's how miserable the road trip was. That's how bad we played. I don't even know what day it is. But I know tomorrow is Tuesday, so that's a step in the right direction. But, yeah, the fans are awesome tonight. Ready to get back out in front of them tomorrow.
Les, you ever forget the day, whatever the day is? You wake up thinking it's Friday, but it's Monday. Like, it's typically like, oh man, I felt like it was Thursday all day long, but it's only Wednesday. Oh no, he thought it was Friday.
Yeah, I don't remember doing it, but I'm sure most players at some time do that. Especially during a bad road trip, you're just showing up trying to play. If this is an election year, I wish Vinny Pasquantino would write himself in, because I would vote for him in a heartbeat for president. That dude, he's hilarious. He's down to earth. He's factual, to the point. Just a funny dude, and gets it. But yeah, that's interesting that he's self-deprecating in a way that is there's a humility to that, but there's also an accountability to that with him, and that's why he makes such a great leader. I just love that guy. But yeah. It's funny. You get on a long road trip, you do tend to forget what day it is, and so I'm just glad he shows up where he doesn't think like it's an off day and he stays home.
The issue is he's not 35, Les. If he was 35, I think we would have at least a couple votes from us.
Yeah, absolutely.
He has to be 105, actually. 100.
Yeah, you know what?
Double it. 35. Double it.
I believe the new age is 70. That 70 is the new 35. I don't think it is. Make America fun again. There you go. Done.
There you go. That's a slogan.
Vinny, we got you. And then his running mate would be Sasquatch. I mean, it's only you don't have to have an actual running mate. This is Sasquatch just walking along with him. We finally found Sasquatch. He came out of hiding so that he could run for political office. So,
which it would fit, because I don't think a president and the vice president are ever allowed to be like on the exact same plane. They always have to travel differently for obvious reasons. And so, for those people that say Vinny actually is Pasquatch, how do you know? They're not in the same room.
Yeah, I wonder now, like the whole Sasquatch thing, has Sasquatch been the designated survivor for like 50 years and we just haven't even realized it? The government won't tell us? That's who I mean, that's why nobody can find him?
Yeah, it's good.
Interesting. Oh, yeah. I think we're starting to get to the bottom of this. I do wonder if they actually landed on the moon, Les. I mean, I don't wonder that.
Why is every picture of Sasquatch, by the way, blurry? Like, how has no one ever been able to take it? Like, they're like, I found him, but why is your camera blurry? Like, it doesn't make your camera blurry. I've always been perplexed by this.
Back when they found him, there wasn't really good mobile phones to take good pictures.
Okay, but the people that found him in 2019, you're like, dude, like that's an iPhone. That's not a flip phone that I had. That is not a Sanyo. Come on.
Look, when you pull out when you see,
I don't believe it's him.
Yeah, but if you were to be out in the wild and all of a sudden Sasquatch appears, by the time you grab your phone and click the camera and try to get it over there, and then it might be gone and you're clicking and it's like, oh, see, I got the little image right there.
You know what would be great is if the Royals, every time Sasquatch or Vinny walks, the Pasquatch that walks across, if the camera was blurry on it, that would be great. That would be great.
Yeah, that actually would be.
That would be great. Visiting with Les Norman. So they got Michael Massey back last night. And, you were mentioning, okay, if Bobby goes to the one spot, who goes to the number 2 hole? The name that popped into my head was, okay, well, if they do want to put Bobby at the leadoff, maybe Michael Massey is your number 2 hitter, because then it would still leave a hole over on the right side by having to hold Bobby on, and you got a pull hitter in Massey, so you've got an extra area for him to hit the ball to. Same thing that Vinny has by being, predominantly a pull hitter, especially with his power. But if they do that, the question then would be, who bats behind Salvi? And I don't know if this is directly correlation causation, Les, but I think the numbers are pretty stark. So Michael Massey, when he finally, got back from, injury and everything and made his debut, he played up until May 24th was his last day. So he's missed the last 26 games. On that day, as he was batting 5th in the lineup, almost every night, protecting Salvi, having at least somebody there behind Salvi, right? At least somebody. Salvi was batting .330. He was getting on base at .396. He was slugging .538, and at that time on May 24th, Salvi had a .935 OPS. Michael Massey gets injured. They have tried Velasquez, they've tried MJ, name it, different players. They've tried it behind Salvi. In those 26 games without Massey batting 5th, he's batting .183. He's getting on base at .269. He's slugging .290 for a .560 OPS. Is it as easy as, okay, now there's somebody not behind him, and so a pitcher can't just simply pitch around Salvi and like, okay, well, now he's at first, we're fine, we'll get these other guys out? How much is it maybe that Salvi looks at the rest of the lineup and goes, oh, I'm kind of the last one here in line. I can't, keep the line moving because the line stops after me. How much is there to those numbers that are night and day? And then last night, by the way, Massey batting behind Salvi. Salvi hits a home run. But what do you make of that at all with Massey inserted in the lineup at number 5?
Well, it's absolutely a thing. I mean, you should have protection for him, but even a professional hitter and a veteran like Salvi, who, when you start to realize, okay, I don't have anybody behind me, he'd never say that, but he's not dumb. Hitters aren't dumb. Fans aren't dumb. I mean, front office, coaches, they're not dumb. They understand. I mean, there are hitters that need protected. I mean, I hit in a 2-hole one year in AAA in Buffalo, playing for the Indians one year. And in the 2-hole during that whole season, I think I hit like 17 or 18 home runs in the 2-hole. But the reason why I got so many pitches to hit, and by the way, I was like 10th on the team in home runs. That's how many home runs that team hit. But that's because lurking behind me in the on-deck circle was Richie Sexson, who hit like about 187,000 home runs that year and went on to a great big league career. So there is absolutely something to that. And any hitter, no matter how calm, how professional, how great they are, you're going to get frustrated when you're not getting pitches to hit because there's nobody behind you. And I think through this stretch, again, even Salvi, Bobby Witt Jr., everybody can go through a slump no matter how good you are. It happens. But you start to get impatient, not impatient as a flaw, impatient like, look, I'm a good hitter, but I'm not getting anything to hit, and they're not paying me to walk. And Salvi, if he walks, he's gonna clog the bases, and and if the person behind him isn't a good hitter, they're gonna strike out, or it's a guaranteed double play if Salvi walks. So it's part of his intelligence, and he understands it. I think it's also part of frustration, and so I think Massey comes back at a great time. He was hitting really well. His contact rate was good. He was hitting some home runs this year. So leave him in the 5-hole. And then if you get somebody like Velasquez, get him some playing time, and someone gets hot, Massey's also a possibility that you could bump him up to the leadoff spot if Velasquez gets hot, or if Hampson gets hot, or if Renfroe gets hot. And dare I say, that hasn't happened yet this year, but I mean, at least the ability to hit home runs. So they've got options here. I think Massey comes in at a great time, and maybe it'll give Salvi a little bit of a breathing room and start getting some pitches to hit.
I wanted to ask about MJ Melendez real quick, and then I want to get into some of the offensive numbers.
We don't
overall.
have enough time. Oh my gosh.
So MJ he looks different, not like looks different in terms of his swing or anything, but like it just feels like he's seeing way more pitches per at bat. It feels like he's having more quality at bats. We know there was the 12 pitch at bat, that was the grand slam. He also had a 13 pitch at bat. Last night he was sitting 0-2 and he ended up earning a walk in the game. And while he's still only batting 179, right? He's still only getting on base at 248. Slugging 362, he's still OPSing just barely over 600 this year. In the last 16 games, he has walked 6 times, and he also had that 13 pitch at bat, or a 12 pitch at bat, which was a home run. So 16 games, 6 walks. He had 6 walks combined in his previous 40 games. Did MJ Melendez? Is there something to that? Like we're seeing him hit the ball, hard. We know he has had power, but it just feels like there's a more, I don't know if it's patient, if it's more disciplined at bats overall, not necessarily resulting in him being Aaron Judge, but it just feels like there's more discipline at bats for MJ when he's been up there, that even down 0-2, it's not, well, here comes the next pitch strike. Like he's battling in there and fighting, and he's earning some walks in at bats that I would have given him 0% chance to end up walking on that in that at bat.
There is this weird humility about talented people, whether it's sports or media, whatever it may be. When you have fun at with what you're doing, when you relax and just enjoy yourself and stop putting undue pressure on yourself. And I'm not talking like air traffic controller kind of thing. I mean, there's pressure no matter what. But when you tend to stop trying to control things so much and just use your incredible ability that you both have been gifted with and you've worked hard to develop, it's amazing how the game comes to you. I mean, if you guys think about some of the best shows you've ever had, there's a pretty good chance at the beginning you didn't say, this is going to be the best show I've ever had. I mean, you can get excited about a guest. You can get excited about a topic. That's great. You can get excited about the Chiefs winning a Super Bowl, on and on. But sometimes when you're stressed or when you're trying or you're trying to push things too hard, it doesn't end up coming out in the way that you thought it would be. The result isn't the same. And I felt like, now, mechanically, I could talk all day. But my youngest son and I talk all day like, why was – if you watch him swing, the bad swings he takes, as he's swinging, his head's falling into the first base dugout. I've never seen, of all the hitters in the world that I've studied, I've never seen anybody have success doing that. And I'm just like, we've got 18 hitting coaches per team now. Can we not see that? I just don't understand it. and the good swings he takes are when he walks, his head's on the ball. And so I think it's okay. Finally, MJ Melendez is relaxing. He knows he can't, because he's had so many at bats, he's not going to hit 280 in the next week. It's got to come one at bat per time. He's probably resigned to the point, look, I just need to help my team today. Stop looking at the scoreboard, stop looking at the batting average, and just see the pitch, and let's just go one pitch at a time. And I think that's the result that you're seeing right now. I will say this is where it's this generation, and it's great to play for a team that you don't have 8 out of 9 of your starting lineup are all-stars, because that affords you to be able to hit 171, 179, whatever he's hitting, and still have a consistent starting job, because most teams are not like that. So it's good to see that. If MJ Melendez can fix the head movement and continue to have the at-bats and stop worrying about the batting average, he could really salvage this season and do a lot better. But if he starts waking up and seeing what the numbers are and presses, he's going to go right back to where he was, and he's going to play himself right out of the lineup.
Yeah, he had 2 walks in the entire month of May. He had 2 walks last night.
That's Mark Quinich.
Right. That's, oh boy, great callback. And he's gotten on base in 9 of his last 10 games.
That's
so whether
fantastic,
that be by
man.
a hit or a walk. So I mean,
yeah,
he's no
right
longer
now,
just the black hole. So
yeah, right now that's his job.
Yep, exactly. Move the line. Keep the line moving. And if that means take a walk, then take a walk, man. Because you weren't doing it before. And I do wonder if there was the pressing, like, no, I got to get a hit. Look at my batting average. I got to get a hit. I got to get a hit. And then you're just lost. And now it's, man, I just got to be up here and find a way to get on base. And if that's fouling off, all right, I'm going to take that one out of the zone. Fouling off, all right, I'll take that one out of the zone. That's what he's been doing, and I've been impressed with that. I hope that approach continues, and it's not just simply this nice little week and a half stretch for him, right. and he falls back into some of those habits where he was swinging through almost everything, it felt like. So
I think fans can tolerate. I can tolerate the 179 batting average. If he can work that up to 190, if he can finish at that Mendoza line of 200, that would be a great salvage of a season. He just has to stay baseball humble, and that means forget about your numbers, one pitch at a time, best at bat to help my team. That's my role. That's what I'm going to do to finish this year.
Yeah, I mean, in his last 16 games, and that's where those 16 games he's had the 6 walks. I mean, his on-base percentage is 100 points higher than his batting average. So I mean, he's not batting all that great, but the on-base percentage is at least 100 points higher. So it's showing that he's batting 230, but he's getting on base at 330 in those 10 games. So we'll see what happens moving forward. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. I want to talk to Les Norman about a really interesting piece that Jason Stark and Eno Saris wrote for The Athletic about offense and what we're seeing, and if there's this downward slide trend that will just continue because of what we're seeing in baseball right now and some of the reasons they came up with as to why that is the case. We'll do that on the other side of the break. More Zone next. All right, Les, I'm going to throw some of these numbers at you, and Jason Stark and Eno Saris at The Athletic were writing about why offense is down the way that it is this year. So here are the numbers. Okay, this is what the league-wide pace is for offenses this year. If it keeps up this pace, they would have 1,400 fewer hits than last year. They would have 1,300 fewer runs than last year scored, 800 fewer home runs, and 600 fewer doubles than just last year. It would be the fewest doubles in a season since before the 93 expansion. By the way, there have been 2 expansions. Multiple teams added, multiple players added, all of those players with opportunities to hit doubles. It would be the fewest doubles since before the 1993 expansion. It would be the fewest homers since 2015 before they juiced the baseballs. Fewest hits per game less since 1968. The lowest batting average on balls in play since 1992. That's what's going on right now. 25 hitters are on pace to hit 30 home runs. 2019, there were 60 players in baseball that hit 30 home runs. Are there? I know they have come up with some ideas and some theories, whether that's true or not. But as we look at some of these numbers, and it's only a year. I mean, this is from one year to the next, from last year to this year. Are you seeing anything to where this trend is heading in this direction? Is it a slow start? Is it something that we just simply need to get used to in baseball today, in that offenses are going to be more difficult? How do you sort of look at some of those numbers, hear some of those numbers, and put it into perspective if there is?
I blame Angel Hernandez. It's his fault.
I knew it. That's what I was going to go with. Angel.
Yeah. You know what? I did not see that article, and I did not see those numbers, and that is astounding to me.
It's
Holy
staggering.
moly.
I mean, really.
Yeah, it really is staggering. I'll be honest with you. I have to dig in a little bit more. I don't know if the pitching that much better. Does it have to do with the flow of the game because they're going faster and I don't know, but it doesn't seem like that much of a decline in those numbers would really have anything to do with something small like that. I don't know, but I am absolutely shocked. I don't think that there's lesser talent in the game. But I'm absolutely amazed by that. I'm utterly amazed, and so now I'm like bent on trying to figure that out.
And so here are some of the theories that they came up with and they were talking about. So obviously pitching is different now than it was 10 years ago with the pitch tracks, the shaping of fastballs, the shaping of pitches. Nolan Arenado said something to the degree that there used to be a pitcher that would have sort of a meatball, right? He said, I remember there used to be a starter where you'd say like, okay, here's a heavy sinker baller. Say, but now guys are like four-seamer, sinker, slider, change. There are 2 different fastballs to worry about. They've got a slider. Now they've incorporated a sweeper. They also talk about Seth Lugo having 8 different pitches. And Mitch Haniger is also saying that he's like, look, facing multiple fastballs is hard. You can't put the same swing on each fastball. And so often you won't know that you had the wrong swing on it until it's too late. And they're talking about the cutter, the two-seam, your fastball, sinker, different types that people are throwing. And Seth Lugo throws a number of different, fastballs as well. And the number so since 2021, the number of pitchers with 2 primary fastballs has jumped 20% in baseball, and the number of pitchers with 3 different fastballs has jumped 40%. Pitchers are on pace to throw more than 8,000 sinkers and cutters this year than last year, Les.
Wow, that's amazing. And I'll bet you every single pitcher in the big leagues right now is happy about those numbers that you read off earlier. And so they should be. I mean, it sounds to me like maybe the balance is swinging back into the pitcher's way again because they're just developing more. Maybe they're onto something about we don't have to just throw, 3 pitches, a fastball, a curveball, and a slider, a fastball, a breaking ball, pick your breaking ball, and a changeup. I mean, if a guy only has 2 or 3 pitches unless I'm down 0-2, 1-2, I consider 2-2 back into a semi-hitters count. But if a guy's 0-2, 1-2, I'll change my approach and shorten my swing up. But if I'm in any kind of hitters count, and I'm my best pitch is middle in fastball, at least back in the day. But I'm going to probably take until I get that pitch. So maybe they're just developing it. I know I've faced guys that throw cutters. I never hit cutters well at all. Now, the first time I ever faced a cutter was against Mariano Rivera, so that's kind of an elite. It's kind of an elite standard, right there.
I hate changeups. First changeup was Trevor Hoffman. Yeah, I don't know why.
My first changeup
Santana.
was Norm Charlton, Bugs Bunny, where he'd throw it at your head and you'd bail out and it'd land on the outside corner. So, but I didn't have to worry about that in my generation of the mid '90s. And now I think Mitch Haniger's right in saying that if you're up there thinking, okay, everybody wants to gear off the fastball. That's what we were taught. I was taught that in high school a little bit more in college, but professionally, everything feeds off the fastball. And if you think about it, it's good because you don't guess. You can react. You learn how to stay back a little bit more. You learn how to have good balance. You get your core and your base and your legs strong, so you're able to stay back. And even if you drift, you keep your hands back. Blah blah blah. Hitting nerd that I am, but you're feeding off of, when you say that, you're feeding off of a four-seam fastball or a sinker that doesn't necessarily move that much. And again, facing guys in spring training on the way up, like Sean Sedlicek had a pretty good sinker. Jamie Bluma had a freaking nasty, heavy sinker that I didn't want to face him in spring training because I felt like I stuck my hands in a beehive full of honey all day. So, but now you're thinking, okay, I got to watch for a changeup. A sinker, then a four-seam fastball that comes in between 98 and 102, and then then it's a cutter, then it's location of all of those, and now you add a curveball, a sweeper, a changeup, a split finger, and then you get the pitchers that do all that. Man, huge advantage to the pitcher. So that's probably what's going on, and then the one thing I don't understand is, we've talked about ebbs and flows where advantage this season hitters, numbers are up, advantage this season pitchers, numbers are down on the hitting side, numbers are up on the pitching side. I don't know how hitters come back from this because pitching has gotten so good because you get pitchers now that have 6, 7 different pitches and they can control them all. So that's a really tough task.
Yeah, and it seems like the pitchers have advanced recently quicker than batters can adjust to that advancement with the different incorporation of pitches, the spin rate, even with taking away the sticky stuff, taking away the infield shift along with it. These numbers are since the sticky stuff and the shift was eliminated. And one of the things they point out, which is fascinating, is, having to work as Mitch Haniger said, that having to deal with different fastballs and not knowing which one is coming, they had mentioned that now it's made the four-seam fastball even more unhittable. 15 years ago, when they looked at, pitchers in the last 15 years are really starting to integrate more of multiple fastballs. Now it's gotten to the extreme. But they went back 15 years ago. Batters against four-seamers as a league-wide batted .277. And so far this year, batters league-wide on four-seamers are batting .245. So that's 30 points lower.
Yeah, think about the approach in this, and I'll be quick with this point. If I know a guy's got a really good sinker, and I see that spin coming out of his hands, which is fastball spin, fastball rotation, I'm going to probably not necessarily try to cheat because you don't have time, but you're going to pull your hands in a little bit. Now, suppose that thing all of a sudden becomes a cutter. You pull your hands in, now you either miss it or you're hitting it off the end of the bat. Or you're thinking sinker or cutter, so you're pulling in and you're diving over the plate, and then he throws a four-seam fastball that's probably going to have a little more miles per hour on it, or you're not. Look, the sweet spot on a bat's like the size of a silver dollar or maybe a little bit bigger. So you don't have a whole lot of work to do in about 1,000th to 10,000th of a second to make a decision on pitch, speed, location, and then hit it perfectly and try to make it land in front of 8 people that aren't a catcher. So, there's just so much of a swing advantage right now into the pitchers because sometimes hitting can be cerebral. I mean, when the pitch is thrown, see ball, hit ball, you don't want to think too much, but you still have to have a plan. And that's what advanced scouts do, is they help you with the plan. This guy throws A, B, and C. These are his money pitches. These are his strike pitches, and we see that before every game. Okay, Cole Reagan's 34% of the time he throws this pitch, and 27% this pitch, and then 22%, and it goes on down and down. But you know what can really mess you up on a night too is that, okay, I'm only going to look for that fastball. And you're looking for the fastball, and then all of a sudden that night he doesn't throw it 34% of the time. He throws it 10% of the time. Now he's in your head after the first or second at bat, and now he's in your head the next time you face him. So, wow. Big league hitters, man, they just have a tall task this year.
One of the other things, and you played outfield, and I think this is something we can get into next week on if there is a solution in this in baseball, and I don't know that there is. There were studies that the outfield shift was much more impactful than an infield shift, that there was more hits, lower slugging, everything taken away with the ability for teams to shift and move around in the outfield. And for instance, in 2019, the league slugged over 1,000 on balls hit to the outfield.
Wow.
Right now, the league is slugging 892 on balls hit to the outfield. 1,000 fewer doubles, 2,600 fewer extra base hits than 2019 alone. And they did the numbers. Center fielders, Les, are setting up 11 feet deeper on average. Left fielders 5 feet deeper and right fielders 3 feet deeper. The league has said, we'll give you the bloop singles. We're taking away extra base hits.
But how many bloop singles? I mean, come to think about it,
Exactly.
I really haven't seen a ton of bloop singles.
Right.
You
And
really
so they're
haven't.
taking away
Someone's
doubles. They're
onto
taking
something.
away gappers. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
taking away all those things, and they're saying we'll run in on the ball, but we're also putting guys out there that are covering more ground because now we want to take those things away. It's just fascinating and sort of the cat and mouse and the ebbs and flows and the yin and the yang of this study of what baseball is doing to try to counter the gaps, the home runs, the hitters, and now they're going, well, we're going to take away the gaps. You're going to shoot the gap. Oh, we got a guy there. That guy, that's right into right center. That's where our center fielder actually is. So you hit it right to him. We got a guy there, man. And we just didn't used to see that. And I don't know if there's a solution to that, but you as an outfielder, I thought it'd be fascinating to bring up the fact that center fielders are lining up 11 feet further back on average than 2 years ago.
Yeah, and the funny thing is you're going to have early work, extra work on your shortstop and second baseman, because if there's not as many bloop singles, you're still going to have to work, and they're going to have to be athletic enough to be able to get to those. And luckily, we've got a shortstop that can get to those and does pretty well at that. But, right now in the back of my brain, I sense there's an analytics nerd out there hearing the sound of my voice saying, see, I told you we had this thing under control. Oh.
I don't know what the solution is. It's something I want to talk to you next week about to see if there is.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that you can't ban an outfield shift. They're not putting four guys into right field. They're just moving them towards the gap. Like, I don't know what you can do with that. You just, as a hitter, you just have to find a way to adjust. But, if you could hit where they aren't, you'd do it more often. So, it seems easy. Well, why would you hit it there? Like Jeff Montgomery was like, that's stupid hitting. We got a guy there. You hit it right to him, dummy.
Oh, man. Him and Gubitza used to say stuff like that all the time.
That's great. You
That's
dummy.
great.
We got a guy right there. What'd you hit it to him for? We'll take a timeout. We'll come back and continue rolling with Les Norman next. I wonder if, does baseball juice the ball again or increase it a little bit? They took away the sticky stuff because they wanted more offense. They took away the shift because they wanted more offense. Now, Jason Stark and Eno Saris saw no evidence of a dead ball when it comes to like the drag coefficient, which is a big deal. Obviously, I have no idea. But they saw no difference in that. But pulled barrels, the hardest hit balls in baseball, are averaging 12 feet shorter of distance than 2018. And it's the shortest distance in the StatCast era this year. Is one of the solutions maybe baseball going, all right, we've taken away the sticky stuff, we've taken away the shift, the pitchers are still advancing at a level better. Last time we were at this level, they lowered the mound, in 1960. They ain't doing that. Do you think maybe one solution is maybe they do think about juicing the balls again?
Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. But look, when guys are throwing 100 miles an hour, the job is, and you square it up, it's going to go. I mean, it's absolutely going to go. So, I don't. If they're going to mess with that, they're going to mess with that. And I'm done fighting the man on complaining about they're juicing the ball, they're doing this, they're doing. I mean, it just wears me out. So if they want to do it, they're going to do it. No matter who complains, who doesn't, they can do that. Maybe you'll get more offense. But again, you're fighting against guys with those 6, 7, and 8 different pitches, all for strikes, all with different movement. And so is juicing the ball really going to help when you can't square it up or you're swinging and missing more?
Yeah. One of the hitting coaches that they talked to said because the velocity has increased so much, the hitting coach is now seeing a lot of different players go to lighter bats, which now a lighter bat barreled up travels a shorter distance. In fact, the hitting coach said he's seen a few players go to 30-ounce bats, and that's not really what players use in modern times is a 30-ounce bat. That I thought was an interesting sort of reason as to, okay, the ball isn't a dead ball, but maybe they're using lighter bats to be able to get around on some of these 100-mile-an-hour fastballs, and if they hit it, it's not going to necessarily go as far, even though they're hitting it the same way they would if it was, a heavier, bigger bat.
Yeah, there's a big difference to that, and that takes a lot of talent to be able to do that too. Because I remember going through seasons. I used a 31-ounce bat, but sometimes in the season, I remember playing one season even in Oklahoma City in AAA, where again there was a 2-week span in the middle of August where it was 107, and the games didn't start until 8:30 at night because it was so hot, and you get tired. And so I went to a 30-ounce bat in the middle of summer, and my power numbers went way down. I mean, I still had a pretty good season at 305 to finish the season, but even so, there is a difference. Now, early in the season where I'm using maybe I can go up to an inch longer using a 34 and a half versus a 33 and a half, and then using a 31 to 32 inch because I can get it there easy when I'm swinging good and my base is good, my timing is good. I can cheat a little bit more and not swing as hard because I'm seeing the ball earlier. And so that's another trend of where guys might adjust their bat size. But you're right, though. I mean, if you use a lighter bat, even at 100 miles an hour, the ball probably, it kind of seems like those numbers that Jason Stark and the other guy put out, that makes a little bit of sense. So, man, there's just so many things out there you can measure. Oh, my head spins.
You didn't want to use the Babe Ruth 54-ounce bat? Didn't want to try swinging that?
Only when my sons were like 5 and 2, and I was playing against them and guaranteeing my batting average in wiffle ball in the front yard. But they're older now, and they've caught up and surpassed me, so that doesn't work.
They were using tree trunks. I think Josh Gibson actually had a tree trunk he walked out there one time with, and he hit it 600 feet doing that, man. It's just, man, it's so fascinating, and we'll see what the rest of the season looks like. Maybe these numbers, will naturally adjust and move to the mean and not sort of be like this the rest of the year. I don't know. We'll see, but I don't know what adjustments will be made. We'll find out. Les, you're the man as always. Appreciate you, brother. Looking forward to our conversation next week already.
Thanks for having me, guys. Great to hear your voice.
Absolutely. You too, brother. There's Les Norman each and every time we talk to him at Breaking the Norm, presented by TruckMovers.com, First Federal Bank of Kansas City, and Biesterveld and Crook.
delivering all natural food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, hanging out here on this Tuesday edition of The Zone. We head up until 2 o'clock. The program comes your way when we are done today. Thank you to Les Norman. Great stuff from him, Breaking the Norm, presented by TruckMovers.com, First Federal Bank of Kansas City, and Biesterveld and Crook. That story's up there at The Athletic with Jason Stark and Nino Saros talking about the offensive numbers and how historically down they are this year. With numbers that they, go back to 1968, overall total numbers of like doubles and home runs to pre multiple expansions since 1993. So it's just and honestly, Sterling, I don't know what the answer would be to that. It just feels like over the last 5 years, even with the elimination of the shift and the elimination of the sticky stuff, that it just feels like pitchers have advanced quicker in the velocity, the different shapes of pitches. It was really interesting with Mitch Haniger and Nolan Arenado talking about specifically the fastball. The fastball, like that's what we're not even talking about. Oh, people are starting to use the split finger a little bit more. Like it's four seam, two seam, and a cutter, and you got pitchers that are using all three in different ways. And that's before they go with the off-speed stuff and some of the breaking pitches that are there. That was really fascinating. And I don't know what the adjustment for hitters are. You know what I mean? Like, hitters can adjust, but typically if you're at the major league level, you feel like your swing is pretty close to being really good because you're at the major league level. And pitchers are now, faster spin rate, harder, a break on some of these pitches. And so many guys in college are sitting, 99 to 101.
I think just analytics in baseball is always going to help the pitchers before it helps the hitters. The more information you have as a pitcher of how to attack someone, you're going to have the advantage. I did think the lower the bats being lesser weights, I thought was pretty interesting, and I think that would bring up a good point of maybe you would have less power, but then you would think you would have more singles, you would have more doubles.
Yeah.
Which hasn't really been the case. Obviously, we're a little biased here in Kansas City, but when you have shortstops as athletic as Bobby Witt Jr., they're going to take runs away. When you have an infield as good as Kansas City has, they're going to take runs away. I think just, again, the progression of analytics has helped defenses in pitching more than hitters. How to align your outfielders, right? How to set up guys to where that hard hit ball is now. Well, that's exactly where the outfielders were lined up. That to me is a pretty big deal. I know it's easy to say, well, just slap the ball the other way. Well, you look at like guys like Luis Ariz, as good as he's been, no one considers him in the same realm as a Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge. Like it's just one of those situations where home runs get you paid. So players, I think, are focusing more on extra base hits, and then you get to this point, and you go, well, I can't adjust now. I've been doing this for 12 years. What do you want me to do? All of a sudden become a slap hitter? No, it's just not going to work. So you're kind of stuck in this trend, I think, is going to happen for a while. But I do think it's fascinating. I also went on a bat dive, if you're interested in my bat dive.
I like bats.
So one of my favorite things I found was, one, Bryce Harper. Used to use a 47-ounce bat in the practice cage before games. And the quote is, "Sounds unbelievable. YouTube videos can be found here." And yet somehow that says sound unbelievable. Yet we all take Babe Ruth's 54-ounce bat just as written in stone. What? Yeah. I'm impressed by that. But apparently Babe Ruth normally used a 40-ounce bat during his 60-homer season in 1927. So normally he used a 40-ounce bat. I also found out some guy named Heine Groh in the 1910s and 20s for the Reds used more of a cricket bat. It was a 41-ounce.
A lot of food can do that for you. Make your Heine Groh.
Yeah, his name is Heine Groh. Incredible, and it's not even a joke. I mean, his parents were cruel.
Big squatters.
But he used a 41-ounce bottle bat, which apparently, I looked it up, looks kind of like a cricket paddle. So, There are some interesting things going on back in the day.
That is absolutely amazing. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the answer will be. I really don't. I mean, I love offense, which is why I was in favor of the shift being banned. I was in favor of the sticky stuff going away. I like the new implementation of things in baseball. I like the pitch clock. I know I'm on an island, and there are not a lot of people with me, but I like the runner in extra innings on second base.
Boo!
I
Boo.
love it.
Why do you hate the game?
I don't just like it. I
Boo.
love it. But what is Major League Baseball? Because every single one of these, it's like, let's add more offense. We juiced the baseballs. We want more offense. We looked the other way during steroids. We liked the offense and the home runs that were happening. And then they took away the juiced balls. And it was like, all right, so both in the steroid era and the baseballs.
They take away the juice. They're anti-juice.
Both juiced balls are gone. And, it isn't exactly the dead ball era of like 2014 before they started juicing the balls a little bit when it was like, hey, offense is down. Let's do something about this. All right, let's make the balls fly 10 feet further. And now that warning track is a home run, and this is going to be fun. But even the hits, like you talked about, like if we're just saying doubles are going away because they're lining up the outfield further back, allowing for the potential of more bloop singles, then why aren't we seeing more bloop singles? Why aren't we seeing just more hits in general? Where right now teams are averaging 8.1 hits per game. 8.1 hits per game. That's the average across Major League Baseball. There have been 5 full seasons worse than the 8.1 hits per game going back to 1901. Only 5. Those seasons were 1906, 1907, 1908, 1909, and 1968. And again, 1968, they said, all right, we're not going to let him throw from a mountain anymore. We're going to lower the mound. So, like, I don't know what the answer is going to be, unless the answer is just simply evolution and players that are now growing up in the game and going to college and seeing the players more on an everyday basis that have the 100-mile-an-hour pitches, that have some of the nastier stuff, that have, the incorporation of multiple fastballs, and you're seeing it more and you're adjusting to that game more, then therefore offense naturally will adjust to that, and then the offense will catch up. Certainly I think is a likely scenario because baseball players are as skilled now than they've ever been. Hitting, pitching, all of that stuff. It continues to rise, and I think there's an element of that you would expect the hitters and the offensive guys to eventually catch up, but it's going to take a little bit before you see these, on an everyday basis. It also sort of makes it even more impressive when you see the top level offensive players at this game right now, right?
Yeah.
Like you're seeing guys that can bat 330, 340, and you're like, what we're hearing veteran players talk about, that's unbelievable of what some of those guys can do.
And I wonder, too, I think an interesting roster construction tidbit here is I think back in the day, maybe teams would construct their 7, 8, 9 hitters to, okay, well, they'll hit 260 or 270, but they're only going to hit you about 8 or 9 home runs, right? Well, now it's like, well, this guy might bat 190 or 200, but he's going to hit you 20 plus 25 home runs.
Oh, you wish.
Well, 20. Let's say 20
well.
home runs. Like there's more Nelson Velasquez's and MJ Melendez's. I mean, when it's all said and done, those guys might bat 190 to 200 and hit 20 home runs, right? I think back in the day, roster construction would have been, okay, we're going to find a guy who hits 270 and hits 8 home runs. Like, I think that might be a little difference as well of roster construction. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I think teams are saying, hey, those guys who are 7, 8, 9 hitters, even 6-hole hitters, well, that one swing can change a game more so than a guy who's hitting 260, but it's almost all singles. It's like, who would win, a team of all Garrett Hampsons or a team of all Nelson Velasquez's? At least offensively, take defense out of the equation for a second, right? It's like, well, who would win in 162 games? I think most teams are going with, well, we'll take the power hitters because we think it's easier for them to get one hit instead of trying to string along 3 hits to drive one run in.
And that's where the defensive philosophy comes in, is that we're taking away doubles, and we're going to make you get 3 hits to drive in a run, not a walk and a double. or a double and a single, or a triple. Gets into the gap and rolls a little bit, and now it's a triple, and only one hit scores a run because it's a triple and a fly. One hit scores a run, and it wasn't even a home run. A triple and a sacrifice fly, and now they've got a run on the board. I think that's part of it, and I think that's a big reason why we're seeing the downturn in the number of doubles that are hit. I think it's pure strategy.
Yeah,
we're going to line them up deeper. We'll play to the shift of what this guy's strengths are. And we're going to take away the gaps and keep those doubles to singles. And if he drops one in front of us, okay. Because if this guy's a power hitter that hits a lot of doubles and he drops one in front of us, he's probably not still in second. And so we're giving up one base where that could have been an out, but the 4 or 5 others that end up being bloop singles would have been doubles, and now we're giving up extra bases along the way. And over the course of the season, we think we're going to be better off than not. And I think that's something that we're certainly seeing. And I don't know if juicing the baseballs or having it fly farther, or they did in rookie league, and this was something I was going to talk to Les about. We ran out of time, but they did an experiment in like rookie league for a little bit of trying to eliminate the outfield shift, which is they just drew circles in right field, left field, and center, and the players had to stand inside that circle.
That's hilarious, yeah.
And that sounds brutal. Like, no, that's dumb. Like,
yeah.
Let's come on. We're not putting 3 outfielders in right field. Like, even if they're shifting, like we're not seeing an extreme shift to where there's a guy in center, and right field.
Yeah, and if it was, then I think even then, you at times you've seen Vinny Pasquantino take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Some of his hits have actually gone. He just dumped him down the left. They would be outs for sure, but because the left fielder is so far into center field, or at least left center, it falls for a hit. I mean, there's always going to be a case of sure, you can do that, but it also can come back to bite you. Yeah. Don't change the game. Let the creativity reign.
The idea of putting circles in the outfield where outfielders will have to stand
childish
is so dumb.
It's like teaching your teaching like an 8-year-old. Like, this is where you got to stand, guys. You got to stand here. This is where a center fielder stands. Okay.
Well, it's funny. Like Dylan and I were talking in the break. Like that's natural in Little League because the outfield grass has already told you where to stand because that's where every kid stands and there's dead grass there. And so then they all go and stand there because there's dead grass, which keeps the grass dead. So there are natural circles in the outfield in Little League.
Well, so, it's a smart move so they don't ruin the rest of the grass. Okay, that's just smart. Don't ruin the rest of the grass. Just ruin that one patch.
But it does tell you, like, the Major League Baseball is looking at even the shift in the outfield and saying, well, is there a way to, limit this to a degree? And I actually don't. I don't think you need to do anything with the outfield.
No.
The infield shift, I understand because you were putting somebody in the out. You were putting a rover into right field like it was softball to a degree.
I still thought moving the shift and banning the shift was kind of silly. I go, okay, that's fine.
I loved it.
I get it. The players weren't going to adjust, but I understand the thought process of why they did it. My thought is, okay, if you care that much and if players thought it would help them that much, they would slap it the other way. They would.
If
they
would
try
easy,
2 more. It's not easy.
But like if it was easy to do that, then
Luis
everybody
Arias can do it anytime he wants.
Right, but not everybody Luis Arias. I mean, Aaron Judge can hit 500-footers.
No, of course.
Can hit 500-foot home runs.
But it's all based on roster construction. If a team wanted to get 9 guys who could slap the ball, they would find 9 guys who can slap the ball.
Well, you can't find 9 guys that are going to bat 340, though.
No. No. But you can find 9 guys who would bat around.
But then you wouldn't face a shift, though. But then you wouldn't face a shift.
And there you
so
go.
If they're just Luis Arias, you're not facing a shift, and you're getting the shift because these guys are driving the baseball and hitting it a little bit deeper, and so you're going to put guys in certain spots, and then it's like, okay, well now go to left field with that. Well, that'd be easier if this guy wasn't throwing 101 on my hands. He's pitching to where he wants me to hit it, which is where the shift is. Well, just inside out swing. It's on my hands, a 2-seamer at 101. What are you talking about? Just inside out swing. Like, come on, man. Like it's very easy for me to say that watching the game. Like, what are you looking at? Why are you swinging at that? Come on. Well, because the 0.001 seconds that he had to decide, he was wrong.
Yeah. I do think there was something you brought up with Les that was interesting, and that was Michael Massey behind Salvi, and I wonder if this gets Salvi going, just having someone behind him it's just not a black hole. I mean, the pitch that was actually he hit for a home run, quite frankly, was a damn good pitch. That had clipped the slider that clipped the low outside strike zone, and Salvi somehow pulls that thing. What was it, 404 feet into left center?
Crushed it, man.
But, I mean, even that pitch, though, at least that was a strike, right? How many times have we seen that exact pitch be 6 inches off the plate?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, yeah, it wasn't necessarily a pitch that I think you're going to count on Salvi hitting, but he is a guy who can hit bad balls a long way. So I do think having Michael Massey behind Salvi, someone who at least is not a black hole behind Perez, will give him at least more strikes, see more pitches, and again, I think it might jumpstart Salvi out of this slump that he's found himself in.
I'm hoping so, man, and I hope there's something to that. It's like there's an element of like I hope there's something to that because then you can have some confidence or some hope that Salvi will break out of this and get back to being the prime Salvi as a 34-year-old, as we like to point out. But there's also a concern is like, okay, so is Salvi's season based on Michael Massey being healthy? Like, God, I hope not. But there was also the first month and a half before Michael Massey played that Salvi was still, crushing the baseball. So it wasn't all Michael Massey dependent. But Massey was really starting to hit the ball well and was put in that 5-hole. And then when he got injured, it was like, nobody else was left to fill that void. And the entire offense has just taken steps back since then. And whether it's coincidental or not, I think there is something to it. Massey, put him at the 5-hole and see what happens. And I'm glad that he's healthy enough to at least bat. Doesn't have to play second base, at least he can get in there and bat, and they're getting more from him on a daily basis than they were going to get from Nelson Velasquez.
Would you consider, I'm not saying I would do this for sure, but this just a thought I had. You move Bobby to 1, move Vinny to 2, Salvi batting 3rd, Massey batting 4, because we talked about the black hole that is the leadoff hitter, right? OPS in 631, getting on base at 287. The Royals have actually been decent when they turn the lineup over. 8 and 9, not great, not good, but let's be real now. It's better than the leadoff hitter has been. When guys are batting 8 and 9, they're OPSing 657 and 665, which is on base of 307, 300. So I'm sitting here going, all right, that first at bat, no one's going to be on for Bobby Witt Jr. But it's not like they've been on a lot before Bobby Witt Jr. to begin with. And 8 and 9, quite frankly, Kyle Isabel has done a decent job of turning the lineup over. Mm-hmm. Would you consider making sure that Bobby Witt Jr. gets as many at-bats in a season as possible? And with the way the offense is rolling right now, you're not losing much in that first at-bat necessarily, not many RBI opportunities. I just wonder if that's something that you think the Royals could potentially look at, just moving everyone up 1 basically and moving, just having no leadoff hitter and having Bobby move up.
Well, I mean, it would look a lot like it did early in the season when Garcia was swinging the bat well. I mean, when it was Garcia, Bobby, Vinny, Salvi, and then nobody else. And we were talking about, they got 5 guys that aren't doing anything. It would just be exchanging Massey for Garcia and just moving Bobby Witt up. Yeah, I'd be in favor of it if it helps out. If this offense gets going, as long as you're not moving Bobby down in the lineup, which I know that's not what you're talking about. But if you're going to move Bobby, it would be from the 2 to the 1 spot, if anything, and have him lead off and get more at bats. And I don't want him to change the approach of. And this is where you would have to, as a coach, talk to Bobby. And if you're going to put him in the number 1 spot, it would have to be we're moving you to number 1, but keep doing what you're doing. You're not now a leadoff hitter that's just going to be there taking walks. Take a walk when it's there, all right? But, if it's hit a double. Hit a home run, do what you do as Bobby Witt Jr. We're just maximizing at bats for you over the course of the season. And we're going to put, hopefully, more often that you're up, the more often there's going to be somebody on base. We're going to get you 30 extra at bats this year. And we just got our best player, an MVP caliber player, 30 extra at bats over the course of, the final 81 games. Does that make a difference? Maybe that one at bat here or there results in a run here or there that gives them a win or two. I don't know what the end result will be, but I'm in favor of them figuring some things out because just simply moving forward with Garcia at number 1 and Bobby at number 2, they clearly are searching for a leadoff hitter because they moved Garcia out. Yeah. They knew he was struggling, so they put somebody else in the leadoff spot. Now Garcia's back in the leadoff spot. Hopefully he can get back to swinging the bat well. He looks like a guy who just is not having much fun right now at the plate. Like, he looks like a guy that is going up there and sees the batting average at 230 compared to what it was earlier in the year, and that's, starting to weigh on him. That's what it looks like to me, is a guy up there that's just like, whatever, okay, hit the ball hard, that's an out. All right, I didn't hit the ball hard, that's an out. I think he's really, really in a rut, and I think you start to it starts to build on itself when that happens, and that's my concern with Garcia right now. When he breaks out of it, awesome, man. Put him at number one. But right now, I don't know who you put at number one. Maybe it's Michael Massey. Maybe that's your leadoff hitter.
Yeah, but he's that guy who doesn't take walk. I mean, again, there's always going to be an issue. It's like, okay, Michael Massey's great, but he doesn't take walks. MJ Melendez takes walks, but doesn't really do anything else.
Garcia's not taking
walks or getting hits. So I guess Michael Massey might be the
poison.
Well, what's funny is Garrett Hampson might be the best bet as the Royals leadoff hitter. I just don't think they want to give him that many at bats. No. I mean, Garrett Hampson's getting on base at a 333 clip. Like, that's damn good. He's fast. How many stolen bases does he have this year? He has only 5, but he's not going to clog up the base paths. I mean, Garrett Hampson might be your best leadoff hitter, but there's not really room for him on how this roster's constructed outside of being a utility guy.
Yeah. The leading the team in walks is Vinny with 31. But again, he's batting 230. Garcia's batting 230. It's just, finding that guy. Like, if you're looking at somebody who's been playing lately as a guy that you're like, oh, maybe this guy can be a leadoff hitter. Like, oddly enough, Kyle Isbell seems like it's been putting the ball in play. That's been getting on base. It's been like there's an element. Like, I never thought I'd say that, but I'm like, oh, well, And if Bobby Witt's, you're moving up to your number one spot, then maybe that's part of the strategy is that, Quatrero looks at it and goes, well, Kyle Isbell's swinging the bat much better now as the number 9 spot, so we get Bobby to bat first in the inning. We maximize his at-bats to the season, and once we get past the 8 spot, we kind of have a leadoff guy in Kyle Isbell that turns it over to Bobby Witt.
That was my point, as far as you maximize the amount of at-bats, and Kyle Isbell, for the most part, has turned it over. Interesting little tidbit here on Garrett Hampson that I just wanted to go down a little rabbit hole of. As fast as he is, Garrett Hampson actually ranks in the 96th percentile in sprint speed, so dude's very, very fast. He only has 5 stolen bases this year, 5 last year, 12 the year before, 17 the year before. I'm surprised by a guy with the speed that Garrett Hampson has. He does not get sent more. Obviously,
maybe he just doesn't have sort of that
twitch.
Skill.
Yeah. Just a little surprising for a guy as fast as Garrett Hampson actually is.
He's got 5 stolen bases and he's been caught twice, so he's 5 of 7 on the season. But yeah, that is interesting that he's only got the 5 bags. And unfortunately, Garcia got caught for the first time.
Gets on
like,
and
damn, finally got on, and then he got caught stealing, and it happens. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. I was watching something last night. I was watching the NHL, and the final seconds ticking away, and it sort of popped into my head of like how I was watching this game and the feeling that was going on. And just thinking about the differences of the sports. I want to talk about that on the other side of the break and explain what I mean in the sort of a very quick and abrupt ending versus what it feels like maybe a slow, torturous end. We'll talk about that next.
Visit Hollywood Casino at...
All right, heading up until 2 o'clock right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, The Zone. So last night, Sterling, I was, watching all the different games. We talked about that as we started the show. The Royals, the College World Series, Game 7 of the Stanley Cup, and the drama that's there, certainly when you've got elimination games and the drama of what happens if you don't win that game. I'm simply talking about the Royals only because also the Marlins season was over. All three teams, whoever lost, the season was over. Luckily, it was the Marlins that ended up losing. But so I'm watching the third period, and Edmonton down by 1, and the scramble in the last 3 minutes, and just the flurry of shots on goal and shots after shots that weren't finding the back of the net, and as the time is running out, and you see the clock ticking down, and Edmonton's trying to gain possession, and they dump the ball into the corner, dump the puck into the corner, and you've got, Florida down there, keeping it, in the corner, and Edmonton's trying to get it out, and the clock's ticking down. And, I'm watching that, I'm like, there's got to be just a helpless feeling of watching the clock tick down and know that you're seeing the end happen. And there's nothing that it's 8 seconds, it's 7, nothing's going to happen. It's just sitting there in the corner, and it's got to be like a helpless feeling. And I'm thinking about the different sports, and you're playing in a playoff game or in the Super Bowl, and while the NFL, there's a clock, and so the clock can tick down, and you're like, well, there's a helpless feeling, but you can stop the clock. And then downs can govern the game, and it almost feels like in football, and even especially baseball, there's more of a suddenness if there's a close game or a one-score game of it being over. Because in football, fourth down, you got time on the clock. You convert, hey, the game's still going. We're still playing. Like, there isn't that slow tick down to zero that there's nothing you can't call timeout. Like, there's nothing you can do. You can't stop it. It's over. In basketball, the clock can tick down and you can go foul them, right? And send them to the free throw line and stop it and get the ball back. In football, convert on a fourth down, you keep possession of the ball. And in baseball, like if you're up to bat and you're down by a run, the final at bat can be one pitch, or it can be longer, or it can create more at bats. You can pass it on to the next guy, and then he's up to bat, and you never know. Like, I was watching and I'm like, man, because I was rooting for Edmonton, and I'm like, it's just, boy, it's such a helpless feeling watching that happen. And I don't know if I preferred that, watching it all just leave all the water, just leave the bucket, and you can't stop it, you can't patch the hole, you're taking on too much water, or all of a sudden, the suddenness, and Sopranos is over.
Here's what,
it just all goes black.
Like, that would be like in football if you – I mean, this is all completely like the most random situation, but if you ran the football with not a lot of time left and you didn't have any timeouts and all the other team did was basically do a dog pile, like a fumble had occurred, and your guy couldn't get up and you guys couldn't snap the ball. That's almost the same thing as it was last night, and that's like the closest you can get.
Or
kneeling.
Or right, but once kneeling, the game's already over, though, because even before the clock's done, if they're kneeling, the game's done.
It's like everyone is
that clock
trying
expired
to get to the puck or the football as time's expiring.
Oh, who did that? Was it Dak Prescott? They
Yeah.
had the chance. They went for it, and they couldn't spike in time. That'd be the example. Dak Prescott.
Yes, it's a little bit.
Great.
It's a little bit like that. Or you're trying to get into field goal range, and you throw the ball down the field, and it's like a 15-yard gain, and then everybody's scrambling to go in and snap. And you're watching the clock, and you're watching them run up there. But even that, like, if they get there, they can spike the ball.
Right.
Like watching that, like Edmonton was never going to get the puck out of the corner.
Like, I
it
see
was
what
just
you mean.
there.
Yeah.
It was just there, and you couldn't do anything, and the clock is ticking down, and it's torturous. Like, it's just a helpless feeling, and there's no little sliver of hope in those final 10 seconds or so. It's just done. It's over. There's no sliver. Like in football, the final 10 seconds when somebody's kneeling, that game's been over. That game was over.
Unless you're Phillip Rivers.
The other team,
unless you're Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, true. But when the other team didn't pick up the first down or turnover on downs, or you didn't get the onside kick, that was the game. It was essentially over at that point. And in baseball, it almost feels like it's more sudden because, I was thinking back to the 2014 Game 7 when Alex Gordon's rounding the bases and he stops at third and you're like, here we go, get this run in, you force extra innings, you're playing another, see what happens. And then, a couple pitches later, Salvi pops it up and the catch is made and you're going, hold on, this month is over? Like, no, it can't be over like that. Like, it can't just be over with one pitch. Even though it wasn't over with one pitch, it was, 9 innings in Game 7 of the World Series. But it felt so immediate. And there wasn't sort of a slow countdown to it. Because if Salvi gets a hit, we're playing more baseball. We know we're playing at least another inning of baseball. Who knows how long that's going to go. It's just a different feeling of sort of that immediacy in baseball that you never know if this guy's going to extend the at-bat or not. Or one swing, all of a sudden the game is over, or you tie it up, where watching that is just draining, helpless, torturous, and then it's over. Nothing you can do.
I think it was about over, 7 minutes or so left in the third period. And that was really when I see Dylan shaking his head too.
Are you going to the McDavid?
The McDavid, yeah. And it
Yep.
was so damn close, right there in the crease.
Yep.
Goalie at one point was on his back and stuff. I mean, there was just they gave it a great effort. The Oilers did, right? I don't think you can really question a lot of the moves.
McDavid got the Conn Smythe, so.
Yeah, he still was the
exactly.
MVP of the whole playoffs. The sixth time I think it's happened, and only the second non-goalie.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah, the
4
only
were
second
goalies.
skater that's done it,
And I mean, could they have pulled the goalie earlier? Maybe, but I think that's really risky. I mean, again, it's only one goal, and you're getting some good movement up there, right? It was just. It was so fun to watch, and obviously in any sport, things have to go your way. Again, at one point when the goalie is on his back like a turtle, he's stickless, and you see the defenders for the Panthers block shot after shot. You're sitting here going, yeah, It's the Florida Panthers night, and Team USA, what can I say, came away with a victory.
As the captains from Finland, Team USA.
That's a great point.
That was awesome, though. I like Gary Bettman, and I do like his kind of flair for history and stuff. But you could tell he was going to give the thing to the Conn Smythe to Connor David as soon as he said, "Now tonight," right when he said that, I was like, "Oh man, he's going to piss all these people off here."
But he deserved it.
Oh yeah, I agree.
McDavid deserved it. It was just
you were not going to not get booed.
It was historic. Agreed. But it was historic. When your only competition for what you've done in the playoffs is basically you and Wayne Gretzky. Yeah, you're getting it.
Yeah. Did you guys hear the Panthers radio call of the championship? So Doug Plagans does the radio play-by-play for the Panthers, and Bill Lindsay was there the first year of the Florida Panthers. So he was a player for a long time, and now he's been in the booth. So he's been a part of the organization since it got to South Florida. So there's an element of understanding the emotions here. But if I was the play-by-play announcer, I might be asking for hazard pay or taking him to court or suing him. I'm not sure. But here is the Panthers radio call. Last night, Doug Plagans, the play-by-play announcer, and then Bill Lindsay as the clock was winding down on Game 7 and the Panthers winning the Stanley Cup.
Fans to their feet. Bouchard, pass missed Draisaitl. Down to our right, Forsling in the corner. He'll try and hold this. 10 seconds left. 2-1 Panthers. A dream 30 years in the making is a reality. Whoa! The Florida Panthers have won the Stanley Cup.
Lord Stanley is coming home. You always will have a place in South Florida. Oh, my God.
The Panthers have won the Stanley Cup for the first time in franchise history.
Yeah!
Start the celebration, South Florida. The Panthers have done it.
Stanley Cup champions!
I think he already started the celebrations
a week ago.
The Florida Panthers are the 2024 Stanley Cup champions.
Oh, we crossed the finish line, buddy. We crossed it. Oh, what a group of bunch of guys. Paul Maurice, congratulations. Oh, what a team. What a gutsy effort.
Oh, my goodness.
So
there
start the
courtesy
celebration.
560 WQAM. Oh, that was so bad. Oh, my God. I felt so bad for the play-by-play announcer. And, people are – I get it. He's been with the Panthers since day one. I love the passion, and it was emotional. I'm like, yeah, but now he's on the broadcasting side.
Yeah, and I can't tell if he's Tony Romo or Bill Lindsay. I could not tell if that was Tony Romo or not.
Oh, my God. It just was so bad.
Yeah. We crossed the finish line.
Lord Stanley will always have a home in South Florida. Did he have a home there? I don't think Lord Stanley had a home down in South Florida. It's a beautiful place, but I don't think he lived down there. But he does now. Here's the Oilers radio call. This is play-by-play announcer Jack Michaels for the Edmonton Oilers, and this is courtesy 6:30 a.m. CHED in Canada.
And here come the Oilers. Steele Rodriguez turns, fires wide. 20 seconds to go in the season. Game 7, Stanley Cup final. The Oilers come up ice. One last chance. Bouchard up the right-hand side. Through Draisaitl. Panthers will try to pin it in the corner. 10 seconds to go. 7 seconds. Florida 2. Edmonton 1. Oilers pulling. 2 seconds. 1 second. The season is over. The Florida Panthers have won the Stanley Cup. 2-1 in Game 7.
Amazing call. It's a brilliant call, by the way. It's phenomenal. And then letting it breathe here, knowing that your fans are crushed.
Oh, hell, he might be crushed, too.
Yeah, right.
Mob scene on the ice. Panthers celebrate as they should. Franchise's first ever Stanley Cup. A determined effort by the Edmonton Oilers, but ultimately only 24 shots tonight in Game 7. And the Panthers find a way to win a series where they were outscored handily.
Yep.
Edmonton will finish +5 in goal differential, but without a Stanley Cup to celebrate. A devastating loss for Edmonton.
Imagine if baseball announcers were that energetic just during a regular call. It's a 2-2 count, and it's a ball outside.
It's the last 10 seconds of Game 7, one goal game there in Florida. The finale of the season's over. And that was the losing call, like that into it, while the other side is screaming and yelling, and it was a great call by the Edmonton Oilers on the radio, and it was a perfectly fine call by Doug Plagans on the Panthers radio network. It just, one guy that steps in, and it's like, all right, well, you can celebrate, go cheer, go do all that stuff, but paint the picture for the listeners, because they might have to be driving around right now. Like, somebody's listening for, it might be a number of reasons. And so they may be celebrating, but what's going on? I want to see. The Oilers told us that pandemonium on the ice. The Panthers are out celebrating. Like, you assume that's going to happen. Like, you assume that's the case, right? But, it's I felt bad for Doug Plagans last night.
You don't listen to the oh buddies, oh no. I thought that's what you listened to. I thought that's what you listened.
We finally crossed the finish line. Last night in the College World Series, Tennessee ends up winning and taking home their first ever College World Series. So a couple of first-time champions last night crowned, the Florida Panthers and the Tennessee Volunteers. Tony Vitello, here he is on the field after the win on ESPN. Winning the College World Series. Here's the head coach of UT.
At the end, you sprinted out to your group. Take me to that moment and why this group has meant so much to you.
They're fun. Loss of voice and emotion, too. They're fun, but also, just like, kids are tough these days. These guys will do whatever you ask them to do. Holy I'm on the I don't really know what happened the last pitch, but I know our fans got us through that tough inning. I guess we were intentionally giving them a couple runs or whatever Holmes was doing. But that was a group effort on the mound. Frank did an unbelievable job. Incredible group of guys. The team chemistry. Just be a good teammate if you're listening. If you're in the SEC, you're going to be a superstar player, but you need to be a good teammate, and that's what these guys were.
We've talked about wanting to build something, build a program like your dad had. You had a wonderful embrace with him. What was that moment like?
It was, I felt like I was the dad and he was the kid because he wouldn't stop crying. And I had to rub some dirt on him. He's way too tough on me when I was younger.
He got dumped with ice here. And the best part about this, the video is great. Like, you can't obviously see it through the radio, but you can't really hear what's going on. So they come over, they dump the ice bucket on him, and he turns around and he starts chest bumping, and then he backs up and he does the crotch chop, suck it. It says players.
I noticed that too. That was awesome.
What'd you call it? The crotch what?
The crotch chop, right? Crotch chop? Isn't that what it's something along those lines?
Everyone knows what. Yeah.
You know what the
I knew what you
is.
meant. I just never heard it called the crotch chop.
I didn't want to what would you call it? I don't know another way to describe it. I was just trying to. It's crotch chop.
The sound you make, the oomph.
I don't know.
You know, like I don't know what you'd call it. Don't put a timer on me.
No, you tell me what to call it.
No, the crotch chop was great. I didn't have an issue with it. I'd never heard it called that before. I think it should be called the crotch chop.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I didn't know I came up with a new term, but there we go.
It's like when you hit a big shot, you do the Eddie House.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, but I'm going to
The Sam Cassell.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know that one.
Yeah, it's the same thing. The Eddie Howe, Sam Cassell.
Okay, yeah. By the way, as we go to break, announcement from the Chiefs that there is now thank you. 2 Kansas City iconic institutions are joining forces this Christmas. Hallmark Media, NFL, Skydance Sports, and the world champion Kansas City Chiefs are teaming up for a new Christmas movie called Holiday Touchdown, A Chiefs Love Story. That will be starring some of the Hallmark Christmas movie individuals, and it's an actual movie that's going to take place. It's going to be filmed entirely in Kansas City at Arrowhead Stadium and other places around town. So there will be now a Hallmark Christmas movie that is specifically centered around the Kansas City Chiefs. So there you go. It's a big announcement for my wife. I know that. I know that.
Huge.
That is a great tie-in with my family. I'll tell you that much. It's a great tie-in because Elena is sure that her family's lifelong history as Kansas City Chiefs superfans makes them a frontrunner to win the team's Fan of the Year contest. But Derek, director of fan engagement, is tasked with evaluating how Elena and her family stack up against the other 2 finalists. As the pair spends time together, it's clear there's a spark between them. But when her grandfather's vintage Chiefs good luck winter hat goes missing, Elena begins to doubt that everything she believed about fate, destiny, and even questions her future with Derek, unless that is a little Christmas magic can throw a Hail Mary. Something tells me they end up getting together. I've got some confidence that they still end up falling in love. That she wins Fan of the Year, and her and Derek, I think, live happily ever after.
Well, I wonder if he's a big businessman who's too busy for love. You know,
he's got a lot of things to do. He's got, you know what? He's got to take care of these other families too. All right, you're not the only family that we're trying to figure out here. Okay, don't try to win me over that way. You're not going to get a win through the bedroom. All right, but yeah, so the Chiefs and Hallmark teaming up. It's big news. It's big news. Huge for the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll take a time in Kansas City and me. More so next. while said love interest are just sort of driving around the city and they're such Chiefs fans that they're listening to sports radio constantly. Just want to throw my hat in the ring that, 10 to 2, the Zone, we are volunteering as tribute to help out for the Kansas City community.
I would totally do this, Jason.
I have to read the script first.
I'd
because,
thrive.
It would, Hallmark, let me just say, major points with the wife, okay? Come on. Be her dream to be in the movie. All right? Be my dream to have her like me.